I'm playing Marvel Legends. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Iron Man vs. Cyborg. However, Tony's situation did not develop as Tony expected. In Obadiah's mind, Marfa is now his ally. Although Iobe has been obtained, what if the useless people under his command cannot analyze Iobe's technology? If Marfa is killed by Tony again, wouldn't it be a waste of his efforts? Therefore, when Obadiah saw Tony rushing towards Marfa without saying a word, Obadiah was also scared. He immediately rushed towards Tony without saying a word. Bang! The two metal arms collided, sparks flew for a while, and layers of airwaves were set off at the collision point. Wow! It seems that my identity as a villain is going to be confirmed. Marfa smiled bitterly in his heart. However, now is not the time to explain, otherwise if Pepper is killed because of the aftermath of the battle between the two, he will not be able to wash himself clean even if he jumps into the Mississippi River. Marfa had imagined countless ways to meet Tony, but this situation is definitely not one of them. Let's go, let's go. Anyway, I'll give Pepper to Coulson first. I can't let myself bear the blame for this villain alone. While Iron Man and Cyborg were fighting, Marfa saw the opportunity and flew Pepper out of the hole that Tony had just blown up. Soon, the two of them arrived at the hamburger shop. Shadow, what are you doing? Seeing Marfa come back safely, Coulson couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But when she saw Pepper, who was shamefully tied up by some invisible force behind Marfa, her face immediately darkened. You said you would save people, so just save them. What kind of bondage play are you playing? Didn't you see that the two pieces of meat of the hostage were about to be squeezed to pieces by you? Coulson complained in his heart, but his eyes inadvertently stayed on Pepper for 0.5 seconds longer. Woo woo woo. Pepper's mouth was blocked by telekinesis, and she could only struggle frantically. Let her go quickly. After Coulson reacted, he immediately said to Marfa. Bang! As Marfa withdrew the telekinesis, Pepper immediately fell to the ground from midair. Marfa didn't lift Pepper up high. Although there was a lot of noise when she fell, Pepper didn't get hurt. Of course, her butt hurt. Coulson, you'd better explain it to me, otherwise I will definitely complain to your Department of Homeland Security. Pepper had seen Coulson at Tony's press conference and contacted him again in the morning, so she recognized him at a glance. What to explain? Coulson was confused. Fortunately, Marfa, the person involved, was also there, and she told him what happened before in a few words. It was not until then that Pepper realized that she had misunderstood Marfa. But she felt a little disappointed in her heart. So the 20% stake in Stark Industries that she wanted to exchange for herself was fake? Sure enough, a man's mouth is a lie. Of course, this was just a thought in her mind. On the surface, Pepper still thanked Marfa in person. Boom. Suddenly, a huge explosion sounded, and the glass of the hamburger restaurant was shattered on the spot by the shock wave caused by the explosion. Fortunately, Marfa reacted in time and used telekinesis to form a barrier to protect everyone. Otherwise, the glass shards would be enough to save Coulson the makeup cost for the next mission. Hurry, Coulson, and this one. Pepper reacted immediately, but she did not check whether she was injured, but pulled Coulson over and said anxiously. Ms. Potts, you can call me Shadow. Marfa said. Shadow, please, go help Tony. Please, please. Pepper begged with a pleading face. The corners of Marfa's mouth twitched slightly. Ms. Potts, do you think I don't want to? But do you think that with your efforts, if I rush up now, will Tony hit me first or Obadiah first? Pepper. Indeed, when Tony rushed into the laboratory, he saw Pepper asking for help in Marfa's hands. Then Obadiah blocked Tony's attack for Marfa. It is conceivable that Tony had already labeled Marfa as a big villain in his heart. Even because Marfa took Pepper away, Tony's attack priority was ahead of Obadiah. What should I do? Pepper stamped her feet anxiously. Coulson, why don't you do it yourself? I was wrong before, but Tony is in danger now. You are the leader of the Shadow, and he can rescue me single-handedly. If you do it yourself, there will be no problem. As long as you save Tony, you can name a price, and I will sell everything I have to give it to you. Pepper said with a sob. Now Coulson is his only lifeline. It was at this time that Obadiah and Tony appeared in everyone's sight at the same time. Obadiah kept flying around Tony at high speed, and the plasma cannon in his hand was like free of charge. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. The prince's tactics were carried forward in his hands. And what about Tony? The long-distance full-power supersonic flight originally put the Mark III into an overload state. Tony didn't even have time to rest for a while and let the body cool down. Tony himself was also extremely exhausted both physically and mentally because of this damn long flight. Even with the assistance of artificial intelligence like Jarvis, the current Mark II could not avoid the dilemma of falling into a disadvantage. Fortunately, Obadiah's plasma cannon seemed to be very powerful, but the Mark II was very resistant to electrical abilities. He was as fierce as a tiger. As a result, Obadiah's attack not only did not cause much damage, but also replenished a lot of energy for the Mark III. Of course, this does not mean that Obadiah is in a weak state now. If Obadiah had seen Tony use Thor as a power bank like Marfa, he would not use plasma cannons to deal with Tony. But as outsiders, Coulson, Pepper and others did not understand the truth. Obadiah's empty plasma cannons fell to the ground, the metal melted, the cement splashed, and the wall collapsed. In terms of momentum, it can be said that it far exceeded Tony Mark II's palm pulse cannon. Boom! Another plasma cannon missed. However, the azure ball of lightning passed by Coulson at a speed that was completely incapable of being captured by the naked eye, and directly melted the billboard behind him into a pool of molten iron. Gudong! Coulson swallowed deeply. He was obviously frightened by the power of the plasma cannon. Mr. Coulson, please help quickly. With your help, there will be no problem. Pepper kept begging on the side. Obviously, after seeing Marfa's ability, Pepper had mistaken SHIELD as an organization composed of superpowers. Marfa, an ordinary agent, is so extraordinary, so Coulson, as her leader, should be more powerful. Pepper believed this from the bottom of her heart. Ms. Potts, are you serious? Let me go. Looking at the steaming molten iron behind him again, Coulson said uncertainly. What a joke, Coulson doesn't think his bones are stronger than metal. Letting himself go is equivalent to sending himself to death. In a flash, when Coulson looked at Pepper again, he could no longer feel the pity of the other party, but felt that the other party's tears were full of poison. It was when the two were talking that Obadiah finally realized the problem. Obadiah had already tested countless times how terrifying the combat power of Cyborg. But now, the plasma cannon has hit Tony more than 10 times, but Tony is still alive and well. This forced Obadiah to think deeply about the doorway. As the second in command of Stark Industries, Obadiah has unique talents in both company operations and corporate management. Otherwise, Howard would not have valued him so much and let him be the regent. From this point, it can be seen that Obadiah is not stupid, and even very smart. Although Obadiah was thrown away by Tony in terms of weapons research and development capabilities, he did not understand it at all. Therefore, after fighting until now, Obadiah has re-recognized the power of Mark III. Very good, very good. I didn't expect your iron armor to be so powerful. Since the plasma cannon is useless to you, how about this? As soon as he finished speaking, Obadiah shouted. Then, the mechanical parts on his body began to change rapidly. In the blink of an eye, Obadiah changed from a shooter with speed and long-range ability to a warrior with both offensive and defensive capabilities. Second round, start. Chapter 77 Brother and Sister Join Forces. Realizing that Mark II has a strong immunity and absorption ability to electrical moves, Obadiah will naturally not continue to output without thinking. After all, unlike Tony, Obadiah still uses bioenergy. Even with the support of Hulk serum, there is a limit. Tony is different. Once the energy is exhausted, he can just change the micro-arc energy reactor and the Iron Man armor can be revived with full blood. Of course, with the current technology of Mark II and Tony, it is not possible to switch in seconds. As Obadiah's combat strategy changes, Obadiah changed the previous long-range output mode, relying on his own agility far exceeding that of Mark III, and immediately rushed forward and started a melee with Tony. To be honest, as an upper-class person who makes a living by brain, Obadiah is very disdainful of close combat. But what can we do? We can't let Tony exhaust himself to death. Bang, 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 bang. Obadiah's fists rained down on Mark III. As a semi-mechanical life form with some characteristics of the Hulk, He was like a humanoid Tyrannosaurus Rex. His punches and kicks were all explaining to the world what it means to hit the flesh with fists, which is the true romance of men. At first, Tony obviously couldn't adapt to this rogue style of fighting. After just a few rounds, he was completely defeated by Obadiah. The exoskeleton armor of Marka II was deformed in many places. There were even many broken parts that fell directly out of the body. This was enough to prove the terrifying power of Obadiah's fists. However, don't forget that no matter how strong Obadiah is, he is just a person after all. Although he looks like Cyborg in the next universe, Obadiah does not have the ability to invade and control the network like Cyborg, let alone record and analyze Tony's movement trajectory. On the other hand, although Mark III had been beaten horribly by Obadiah, the artificial intelligence Jarvis was constantly recording Obadiah's attack habits. Over time, Tony was able to barely dodge one or two moves with the help of Obadiah's data analysis. However, it was too late. At this time, Marka II was originally an incomplete body that was hastily made. Coupled with a long-distance full-load flight, the body was already in an overheated state. In addition, in order to resist Obadiah's plasma cannon, it absorbed too much energy. Then it suffered so many melee attacks from Obadiah. At this time, Marka II was on the verge of disintegration. Finally, seeing that Marka II was about to collapse, Tony made a quick decision and poured all the remaining ammunition carried by Marka II into Obadiah's position. Boom. As the world's top military enterprise, the ammunition produced by Stark Industries is not like the former wife missiles produced by Hammer Industries, which can only make a whoosh sound. Sparks from the explosion shot straight into the sky, and shock waves spread out like a tide. The Stark industrial office building at their feet collapsed in an instant. Seeing the situation so dangerous, Pietro, who was lying on the roof of the hamburger shop, could no longer sit still. Snap! With a crisp snap of his fingers, Pietro put on the goggles on his neck, and the whole person immediately turned into a silver stream of light, with azure light and shadow effects, and disappeared on the roof of the hamburger shop. P.S. BGM, sweet dreams can be added here. Please use your imagination. 1, 2, 3. Pietro shuttled through the flames produced by the explosion, as if there was no one in the world, and sent everyone present one by one to the distance. Because he ran too fast, the silver carbon fiber combat suit that Pietro had just customized began to wear out quickly due to friction with the air. Even in the end, the soles of his Adidas sneakers were worn out. Seeing that there were still more than 10 people who had not been rescued, Pietro, who had not yet fully mastered his abilities, could no longer hold on. The mental fatigue brought by the overload of superpowers continued to hit his brain, and the excessive overload of exercise also caused every muscle in his body to be extremely sore. Finally, after reaching a critical point, Pietro staggered and fell directly to the ground. Behind him, there were more than a dozen spectators who came to watch the excitement. Among them were women and children who lived nearby. Fouquet, run, run, run. Pietro looked at the men, women, and children behind him in despair, slapping his legs weakly. The shock wave caused by the fire and explosion was getting closer and closer. That's it. Looking at the people in the distance who had been sent to a safe area by him, Pietro smiled with relief. At this time, waves of scorching air had already come close to Pietro. The dozen people behind him screamed continuously, and their terrified expressions would definitely make a great emoticon if they were photographed. At the critical moment, a scarlet energy barrier blocked everyone. Then, a woman in white pajamas with cartoon rabbit patterns slowly fell from the sky. Stupid Oni-chan and Damao. If you are so reckless next time, I will definitely dismantle your bunk beds myself and let you all go to the toilet to sleep. There is no doubt that the person who came is the contemporary Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. Originally, Wanda had the habit of going to bed early, but today happened to be Gwen Stacy's birthday party. Wanda wanted to take her silly brother to show up and create some opportunities for Marfa. But she never thought that Wanda didn't see Marfa for a whole day. It was late at night when she came back from the party, but Wanda's mind was full of how to teach Marfa a lesson. As a sister, she was worried about her brother's sexual happiness. But she never thought that while browsing Twitter, P.S., similar to Weibo, she vaguely saw Pietro lying on the roof of the hamburger restaurant in the photos of the Manhattan explosion. After all, in the middle of the night, wearing a silver combat uniform and lying on the roof, isn't it particularly eye-catching? So, after Wanda entered Pietro and Marfa's room, She found that there was indeed no one there. She didn't even bother to change her clothes, and rushed to Manhattan in her pajamas. This is how Pietro was saved just now. On the other side, Marfa and others, when they came to their senses, they actually found themselves on the street 1 kilometer away. For a while, everyone looked terrified. Then, what came into everyone's eyes was the flames rising into the sky and the scarlet energy barrier that blocked the flames. It's Pietro and Wanda. Seeing this scene, Marfa reacted immediately. Good guy, why are these two people here? Is it possible that I have been exposed? Marfa frowned and thought. But at this point, he couldn't think too much. You know, both Obadiah and Tony were still in the sea of fire. Things have calmed to this point. If Tony Stark died, wouldn't he have worked in vain? What's more, the boss of Kamartaj repeatedly told him not to go too far. If such an important character like Tony died like this, it was inevitable that the Ancient One would pull him over and love him well. Chapter 78, The Fisherman's Benefit. The smoke and dust raised by the explosion soon dissipated. Obadiah staggered and climbed out of the pit. As for Tony Stark, he had already disappeared. There was only a pile of scattered steel armor parts left where he had stood before. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. The laughter filled the entire battlefield. You lost, you finally lost, Tony, you are just like your short-lived father, in the end you are just a stepping stone for me to succeed. Tap tap tap. With heavy steps, Obadiah walked towards the location of Mark III. Since he had won, he naturally had to collect the spoils. Using the Mark I prototype as a blueprint could make him so powerful, so what if he'd adjusted the technology in Mark III? Ambition is endless, and Obadiah naturally could not give up the opportunity in front of him to make himself a step further. Alice, what a pity. The skeleton robot in the laboratory has probably been destroyed by the battle. As if thinking of something, Obadiah sighed secretly and made an extremely regretful expression. However, at this moment, a cold light flashed from under the Mark II armor. Then, as the parts of the Mark II were pushed aside, a sewer opening below it was also exposed. Obadiah instinctively felt that something was wrong, but the next moment a figure suddenly rushed out of the sewer opening. Swoosh! Tony Stark ran towards Obadiah quickly with a photon-cutting short blade in his hand. On the short blade, white light flashed, and a wire at the handle was directly connected to the miniature arc reactor on Tony's chest. Obviously, this was Tony Stark's last hidden killer move. Tony Stark has always believed that it is better to be prepared, and my fate is in my own hands. Because of this, he wanted to make a more powerful armor, even Vision, in the original plot, and take all the initiative into his own hands. So, when Jarvis told Tony that time was running out and Mark II could not be completely perfected, Tony anticipated the possibility of Mark II disintegration. Therefore, Tony just used the free time of Mark II to make an oxygen mask and the photon-cutting short blade he is holding now. Long before all the ammunition was poured out, Tony Stark intentionally or unintentionally moved his position to the entrance of the sewer. That is, at the moment when the ammunition exploded, Tony directly used Mark II's palm pulse cannon to blow up the entrance of the sewer, and abandoned the disintegrated Mark II and got in himself. As the CEO of Stark Industries, Tony's fighting skills are not very strong, but under the guidance of a lot of top coaches, they are not too bad. It's said that it's too late. A white light flashed, and Tony had already come close to Obadiah. Swish! The white blade pierced Obadiah's heart. As long as the short blade hit, there was no doubt that with the sharpness of the photon cutter, it would definitely be able to easily pierce Obadiah's heart. However, Tony overestimated himself after all. Sizzle! Sizzle! 100,000 volts. The powerful electric current exploded from Obadiah's body. The arcs visible to the naked eye instantly spread to Tony's whole body. Bang! Tony's body fell down, and then he began to twitch constantly on the spot. Milky white foam kept overflowing from the corners of his mouth. It was obvious that he had fallen into coma and completely lost his ability to fight. Pa, pa, pa. Applause rang out, and Obadiah looked in the direction of the sound. He saw Marfa strolling into the sea of fire. The flames burning everywhere seemed to be afraid of Marfa. As long as Marfa approached, they would avoid him and make a safe passage for him. Of course, it was obvious that Marfa had used telekinesis to do this. But this was a very impressive thing in Obadiah's eyes, at least he couldn't do it himself. Is it you? Your robot has probably been destroyed by the aftermath of the battle. What do you want to do now? Although he had seen Marfa crush a pencil from Pepper's hand before, and even lifted Pepper in the air. But before Obadiah had time to think about it, Tony appeared. Now that he thinks about it carefully, the person in front of him is probably not simple. This is enough to be explained by the fact that the other party was able to force his way through 3 mechanisms in the underground passage of the Stark Industries office building. But now that Marfa suddenly appeared, Obadiah couldn't tell whether he was an enemy or a friend. "I saved Tony Stark's life," Marfa said indifferently. But when Obadiah heard this, he had to frown. What a joke. Saved? Doesn't this mean that he has been working in vain for so long? When Tony Stark wakes up, will he still be able to tolerate me? If I kill Tony now, and then use the power of capital to manipulate it. Anyway, the matter is done, and the US officials will not fight with Stark Industries for this, right? For the US officials, Tony has decided to stop the production of weapons, which has already harmed their interests. On the contrary, as long as Obadiah makes a little concession, I think the US officials will be very happy to see Obadiah take over as the CEO of Stark Industries. Obadiah thought so, of course, he did so. But I didn't expect that when everything was about to end, another clown would jump out and even dare to threaten me. Uncle can tolerate it, but Aunt can't. Are you threatening me? Do you think I have lost my combat effectiveness in my current state? Obadiah glanced at Marfa in front of him with disdain, with a sense of if you dare to talk again, I will kill you. And what about Marfa? From the beginning to the end, as long as the battlefield was open enough for him to use telekinesis to deflect the opponent's high-powered weapons, Marfa didn't take Obadiah seriously at all. Are you kidding? No matter how powerful you are, Obadiah, you are just a cyborg after all. And whether it is a carbon-based life form or a cyborg life form, it can't escape the damage range of poisoning. Just use the soul fire symbol to delay the battle, use telekinesis to move, and then use poisoning to wear down your health. Whether you are Obadiah or cyborg, I can wear you to death. It's so shameless. And if Marfa is upgraded to another level, he will have invisibility. Marfa can even use poisoning, invisibility, and summoning skeletons, which is a more shameless fighting method. No matter how powerful you are, I will not shake my green lotus. This is the essence of being a Taoist priest. Therefore, facing Obadiah's questioning, Marfa is naturally fearless. I know you still have the strength to fight, but with your current physical condition, if you force yourself to fight, I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on for long. As soon as the words fell. Poisoning. Green poison. In an instant, Obadiah turned into a little green man. Combined with the Hulk serum he got from Banner, this time, he turned even greener. It hurts, what did you do to me? Your meat. The corrosive damage of the green poison immediately began to burn Obadiah's body. The roars like ghosts and wolves made Marfa's eardrums hurt. Healing. He casually cast a healing spell on Obadiah, and Obadiah felt much more comfortable. Even his condition was a little better than before. How could Obadiah endure such humiliation? He was hit with a stick first, and then given a carrot? What did he think of himself? A pet? In just a moment, anger overwhelmed Obadiah's reason. Plasma cannon. Boom boom boom. 3 plasma cannons were fired in succession, and the azure light illuminated the night sky again. However, when the plasma cannons were about 10 meters away from Marfa, they all exploded. For a moment, smoke and dust rose up, and the air was filled with free arcs. Just as the Marka II restrained Obadiah's plasma cannon, Marfa's telekinesis also happened to restrain this thing. Although the plasma cannon can instantly form ultra-high temperatures through electromagnetic radiation and melt everything, and unlike physical shells, its trajectory and firing rate will not be affected by its own weight and resistance. But the plasma cannon also has a huge flaw, that is, insufficient penetration. Once it touches an object, the plasma cannon will explode instantly and release the huge energy inside. Therefore, the moment Obadiah released the plasma cannon, Marfa used telekinesis to form several barriers in front of him. It doesn't matter how strong the telekinetic barrier is, just the number is enough. Because of this, Obadiah's ultimate move was no more troublesome to Marfa than an AK-47. It seems that you are not willing to do it, or you still cannot face the reality. Marfa said in a deep voice. Red poison. Soulfire talisman. A golden talisman flashed from Marfa's fingertips, and when it fell on Obadiah, it immediately exploded. The metal part softened by the red poison was like a gauze at this moment, losing its powerful defensive effect. Under the attack of Marfa's soul fire talisman, Obadiah's figure was immediately blown back 3 meters, and he barely stopped. What do you want? Looking at the man in front of him who attacked him, healed him, and attacked him again, playing with him in his hands, Obadiah collapsed. The kind of power that he couldn't understand at all, the kind of power he had never seen before. Ziobe, come out and meet the man who fell in love with you at first sight. As Marfa finished speaking, another amulet floated out, and Ziobe, who was trapped in the ruins, was teleported to Marfa's side. Seeing Ziobe's appearance, Obadiah's pupils shrank. What happened just now? Spatial ability? If Marfa's ability just made Obadiah afraid, then the fact that Marfa had a robot that mastered spatial ability was simply a nightmare for Obadiah. Because you never know where, at what angle, and in what way the other party will attack you in the next second. It's impossible to defend against it. Okay. Tony gives it to you. Obadiah made a decisive decision. He didn't dare to gamble. He didn't dare to gamble on the extent of Ziobe's spatial technology. It's ridiculous. I actually tried to exchange a woman for this robot with spatial technology before. Obadiah complained in his heart. Now, he finally understood why Marfa was willing to exchange Ziobe for Pepper. It turned out that she was just planning to get something for free. Of course, giving up on killing Tony also meant that he would completely lose the huge resources of Stark Industries. As for why Marfa didn't kill him directly, he naturally had his own plans. For Marfa, the existence of Obadiah did not conflict with his purpose. In other words, wouldn't the MCU be more chaotic with the existence of Cyborg? By then, wouldn't the game cards come like running water? After watching Obadiah leave, Marfa casually put the Marca II into the storage backpack, and then carried Tony and walked towards the sea of fire. With the raging flames and smoke blocking his sight, Marfa was not worried about being discovered by others for his little action just now. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully deflecting the MCU plot, and rewarding 2,000 minutes of game time. The current remaining game time is 3,600 minutes. Please keep up the good work, host. Chapter 79 Life Fund. 3 days later. Despite many changes, Tony Stark still announced at the press conference that he was Iron Man. This statement undoubtedly caused an uproar in the United States and even the world. There are many superpowers in the world, but they either try their best to hide their identities, or they will reach some kind of agreement with some organizations to get the protection of those big forces and be covered by the big forces. This is why superpowers have never entered the side of ordinary people. However, with Tony Stark's high-profile public speech, it is equivalent to making the existence of superpowers public. Although Tony only joined the ranks of superpowers with the help of exoskeleton armor, it still set off a storm in the cognition of the world. In a castle somewhere in Europe, Agatha looked at the video of Iron Man fighting Cyborg forwarded by a busybody on the internet, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Because in the fleeting picture, she saw a touch of red. That was the color she yearned for, and that was the power she had been seeking in vain. At this time, it was located in the Life Foundation in San Francisco, California. CEO Carlton Drake also saw this video. But unlike Agatha Harkness, Carlton's focus is on Cyborg, a semi-mechanical life form that perfectly integrates machinery and humans. Life transformation is really not a dream. Not long ago, Life Fund's spacecraft, Life 1, discovered a comet in space. And there are millions of life forms on this comet. What does this show? This shows that even without oxygen and in extreme environments, life can appear in another form. The research direction of Life Fund has always been exploration, exploring a new living area for humans in the universe. Carlton Drake believes that human beings' excessive development and demands on the Earth have caused the Earth's ecology to enter an extremely dangerous state. In a few generations, the Earth will be completely destroyed by human greed. It is for this reason that Carlton Drake, who is only 24 years old, established a huge biological research empire of Life Fund. It is intended to completely free humans from the shackles of the Earth on humans. Dr. Skez. Contact Jameson again and ask him to bring the 4 life samples back to Earth as soon as possible. I can't wait. Carlton said to a female researcher who looked quite dignified. Okay, I'll make the arrangements right away, but sir, our recent research progress in gene therapy has reached a bottleneck. If we disperse funds to study alien life at this time, I'm worried. Dr. Skez said hesitantly. Money is not a problem. A friend contacted me recently. With this sponsorship, I think we will soon come up with research results that will shock the world. Carlton said confidently. After seeing Obadiah's successful case, Carlton's mind is now full of emulating Obadiah, integrating humans with other forms of life, and thus having a broader living space. It can be foreseen that once the experiment is successful and allows humans to adapt to the cosmic environment, then as the initiator of this project and the controller of the core technology, Carlton is equivalent to indirectly controlling the fate of all mankind. At this time, Washington, located in the eastern United States, welcomed 3 guests today: Marfa, Wanda and Pietro. As 3 superpowers who played an important role in the Manhattan War, the 3 children of the Maximoff family were honored to be invited by the black-salted egg Nick Fury to visit the Trident headquarters of SHIELD. Of course, it was called a visit, but in fact Nick Fury just wanted to recruit Wanda and Pietro through Marfa, who had already joined SHIELD. After all, there was no reason for SHIELD to turn a blind eye to these 2 talents who also had extraordinary powers. The meeting room on the 17th floor of the Trident headquarters. You two, I have just roughly explained the matter to you. In short, our SHIELD is such a special force that guards and handles strange events in various places around the world. I, Nick Fury, now extend an olive branch to you in the name of the director of SHIELD and invite you to join SHIELD and contribute your own strength to the peace and stability of the world. I wonder what you two think. Nick Fury opened his arms and said as if he was about to come into my arms. Wait, director, when did we change our name to SHIELD? Isn't it the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency? Carlson on the side interrupted and asked. Ahem, we just changed it this morning. Don't worry about these details. Nick Fury's face darkened and he said awkwardly. Wanda and Pietro on the side looked at Marfa. After all, this reckless brother had actually joined SHIELD without telling his family. He had concealed such a big thing. This was simply too much. Moreover, after seeing the strength of SHIELD, the 2 also wanted to get some advice from their brother who was 1 step ahead of them, to see what Marfa's impression of SHIELD was. If it was really an organization dedicated to maintaining world stability as Nick Fury said, joining them would not be a bad thing. Ahem, what are you looking at me for? I don't recommend you to join. Look, since I joined SHIELD, I first fought Spider-Man, Flash Thompson, and then, within a few days, I was dragged into the internal struggle of Stark Industries by the black-hearted principal, and I was in danger twice in a row. If it weren't for my good luck, I might have been really finished. Wanda, don't you want to study hard, and then find a Prince Charming to live a quiet and happy life? Also, Pietro, you will get married in the future. If something happens to me, you will be the only child of the Maximoff family. The task of carrying on the family line is left to you. You must put your position as a stud in the right place. Marfa said incessantly. The faces of Nick Fury, Phil Coulson and Pietro Maximoff gradually darkened as Marfa spoke. Listen, this is human language. Black-hearted principal. And put the position of the stud in the right place. Isn't this insulting? The most upset person was Nick Fury. I asked you to come here to persuade your brother and sister, and you did persuade them. But the question is, what does it mean to persuade them not to join S.H.I.E.L.D.? Do I, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., have no face? For a moment, the atmosphere in the conference room became extremely depressing. Except for Marfa and Wanda, everyone had a bad face and glared at Marfa. I'm sorry to bother you. I seem to be here at the wrong time. Outside the conference room, the short, fat, bald Sitwell said awkwardly. Although the voice was not loud, it broke the silence in the conference room. Agent Sitwell, didn't I tell you? No one should disturb our meeting. Nick Fury said with an unhappy face. I'm sorry, Director. It's Minister Pierce. He heard that Marfa had made great contributions at a young age and wanted to meet this young talent. He is now in the office on the top floor. Sitwell said apologetically. Alexander Pierce, on the surface, is the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D., but in fact, he is a big boss of Hydra. Because Nick Fury saved his daughter during a mission when he was young, he was cultivated by Pierce, and finally became the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. According to Huago, Nick Fury is Pierce's disciple. After Pierce stepped down as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., he naturally became the minister of the UN Security Council. The entire S.H.I.E.L.D., including Nick Fury, needs to be responsible for him. He can be said to be a figure like the Emperor. Now that the Emperor wants to meet the top scholar, Nick Fury naturally has no reason to refuse. Leaving the meeting room, Marfa couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He is worthy of being the king of agents. The momentum in his bones alone gives people a feeling of oppression. Marfa was afraid that he would be exposed accidentally. But, is he going to meet Pierce? Then it seems that he should also seek some benefits for himself, otherwise he would work for the Shield in vain. Chapter 80 Meeting the Snakehead. Mr. Minister, Marfa Maximov has been brought here. Sitwell introduced Alexander Pierce's top-floor office and bowed slightly before leaving. For a moment, Marfa and Pierce were the only ones left in the huge office. Pierce sat upright in his office chair, his eyes scanning Marfa. And Marfa also looked at the snakehead in front of him. It must be said that Pierce was born with a bad look. His facial features were just like those of an emergency assembly, without the dignified feeling of a superior. His blonde hair was also slightly messy, and coupled with his black-framed glasses and gray suit, he looked like a miserable middle-aged low-level salesman. That's it? Marfa was a little disappointed, but he didn't dare to show it superficially. After all, being able to get to this position now is enough to show that the other party is extraordinary. As for his appearance, it can only be blamed that Alexander Pierce's parents didn't pose well when they gave birth to him. Yes, heroes have always been young. At first, Sitwell repeatedly recommended you to me, but I didn't care much. I didn't expect that you would make such a great contribution in just 1 month. Ha, it seems that I am really old. Pierce said with a smile, and the wrinkles on his face could almost kill a fly with his smile. Pierce is indeed an old fox. With a simple sentence, he not only praised Marfa, but also pointed out the importance of Sitwell. The implication is, boy, don't be arrogant just because you have some achievements. Be restrained. If Sitwell hadn't pulled you into the group, you would be nothing. No, everything is due to your wise leadership, isn't it? Of course, it is Agent Sitwell's kindness to me, and I will never forget it. Hypocrisy to the extreme. Marfa smiled on his face, and said in his heart, "It is my honor to meet the minister and admire your demeanor. Therefore, I have brought some small gifts for you. I hope you don't dislike them." As he said this, Marfa took out the parts of Mark III from the storage backpack and put them on the ground. Sure enough, when Alexander Pierce saw Mark III, his eyes immediately flashed, and his face showed satisfaction. Not bad, very good, a good kid. Sitwell didn't make a mistake. It was also a compliment, but this time the compliment was obviously more sincere than before. Of course, Alexander also knew that compliments were worthless. Hydra was a pragmatic organization. If he wanted his subordinates to work hard, Pierce knew that he had to give Marfa a little sweetness. The organization is very satisfied with your gift, so as a leader, I naturally can't treat you unfairly. If you have anything you want, you might as well tell me, maybe I can give you some help. Pierce walked up and glanced at the Mark III armor on the ground, but in his heart he had already regarded Marfa as his own. In fact, Pierce is not stupid. Marka II is not a cutting-edge technology for Hydra. What is really important is the miniature arc reactor on Tony's chest. The main reason for letting Marfa get Marka II is to use it as a token of loyalty to truly pull Marfa into Hydra. After all, it is difficult to draw the bones of a tiger. With Callison watching, if Marfa can still secretly hide Marka II in order to execute his orders, it will be enough to prove his loyalty to him. It is my duty to work for the minister. How dare I ask for anything? Marfa pretended to be terrified and said, "Ha, you kid. That's enough. At my age, if I still can't see your little tricks, I'll have lived in vain," Pierce said cheerfully. As the Minister of the Security Council and the direct superior of SHIELD, Pierce's office is the blind spot of SHIELD's monitoring, so he is not afraid of exposing anything. In this case, Marfa is bold. "I want the energy crystal of the Cosmic Cube," Marfa said straight to the point. The Cosmic Cube. Upon hearing this, Pierce frowned. The Cosmic Cube was a top secret in S.H.I.E.L.D. Apart from confidants like Sitwell, the only people who knew about it were Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and a group of researchers who had access to the Cosmic Cube. After all, the Pegasus Project, which was to study the Cosmic Cube and use its scattered energy as a weapon to resist the invasion of alien forces, was a level 10 secret of S.H.I.E.L.D. How did Marfa know about it? For a moment, Pierce's vigilance, which had just been put down, resurfaced. "Minister, don't get me wrong. As the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D., you must have heard of Kamartaj. Seeing Pierce frown, Marfa thought to himself that it was not good, and immediately immersed his mind in the legendary world to think about countermeasures. With the advantage of time difference, Marfa quickly thought of a shirking plan, passing the buck. Camouflage. Pierce had naturally heard of it. Although those mysterious wizards never wanted to deal with him, S.H.I.E.L.D. still knew about his existence. The supreme sorcerer of camouflage can know the past and the future. I was fortunate enough to get her advice. She said that the cosmic cube would be good for my strength. I naturally dare not touch such a treasure as the cosmic cube, so I want to study some of the energy crystals of the cosmic cube. If it really helps me improve my strength, it will also facilitate me to serve the organization better. Marfa said righteously. I see. If Marfa put the blame on Sitwell or Nick Fury, or even made up a story, Alexander Pierce would never believe it, and Marfa would lose its value in being used and recruited. But if it involves camouflage, it is not impossible. The three major temples of camouflage, the New York Temple, is near Marfa's home, and Marfa's abilities are very similar to magic. If she gets advice from the camouflage wizard for this, it makes sense. Okay, I'll arrange it for you, don't let me down. Pierce said in a deep voice. The energy crystals of the cosmic cube are not rare for S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, the cosmic cube has been in S.H.I.E.L.D. for many years. S.H.I.E.L.D. has at least 800 crystals. What Pierce really cares about is where Marfa's information comes from. Since it is insignificant, and the energy crystals can exchange for Marfa's loyalty, Pierce naturally doesn't mind giving it a few. On the other hand, Nick Fury in the conference room downstairs is still trying hard to persuade Wanda and Pietro to join S.H.I.E.L.D. What is the rise and fall of the world? Every man has his share of responsibility. What is the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility? What is paid vacation, full benefits? What is the organization's distribution of objects? Ahem. In short, in order to get the two to join, Nick Fury can be said to have done everything possible. However, both Wanda and Pietro have made up their minds at this time. That's right, through what Marfa just said, the two have secretly made up their minds that not only will they not join S.H.I.E.L.D., but they will also work together to make Marfa quit the organization. Although the Maximov family is still prosperous, they must not be ruined by Marfa. Pietro alone is not enough to be a stud, Marfa must also share the joys and sorrows. Especially Wanda, she has spent a lot of effort to match Marfa and Gwen, and she must not give up halfway. As long as she thinks of her bestie calling her sister, she feels proud. So, no matter how bad you are, the two brother Khan are still unmoved. Nick Fury, these two siblings are poisonous. Very poisonous. On the other hand, Ace Taranton of the Kingpin gang has the same experience as Nick Fury. This is his 16th visit, but Django and Natalia still grit their teeth and never let go. What a joke, let your family join the gang. What if the in-laws find out on the future? What will happen to your children's marriage? No one wants their son or daughter to marry a gangster. What's more, the Kingpin gang is well known for its laundry detergent, human trafficking, and casinos. In short, the Kingpin gang has become synonymous with crime. What if one day, their children go to jail? Because of this, no matter whether Ace offers money, houses, or cars, Django and Natalia are united and refuse everything. If it were in the past, Ace would have turned the table over long ago, but it's different now. Kingpin has given instructions, and even if they can't win them over, they can't make enemies. For this reason, Ace can't think of any other way except visiting them again and again. On the contrary, the Sunzi gang in Queens has been making more and more moves recently, and there is even a tendency to drive the Kingpin gang out of Queens. Good guy. Kingpin didn't complete any of the tasks he was given. At this time, Ace Taranton felt so miserable. San Francisco, California. At this time, Carlton Drake was receiving two guests who had just come from New York. The fact that he personally greeted them at the gate showed how important these two guests were to the Life Fund. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Stanley, welcome to our presence. Chapter 81 Tony's Invitation. Gamora Thompson, who started from scratch, built the business empire of the Thompson Hotel chain. From the United States to the United Kingdom, and even in China, it has its own industry. It can be said to be a leader in the hotel chain. Of course, there is still a certain gap between him and top people like Tony Stark, but he can be regarded as an upper-class person in the United States. However, as Gamora's only son, Frush's death is undoubtedly a heavy blow to Gamora. Originally, he had a son in his old age, and his wife died prematurely, which made Gamora love Frush in every way. Even when Frush wanted Arachne, Gamora used his connections and funds to satisfy him. But what was the result? His son died, and he couldn't even get his body. What could be more painful than a white-haired person sending a black-haired person? Originally, Gamora thought that he had no hope of revenge due to the huge power of SHIELD. However, on this day, he received an invitation from Carlton Drake. For Life Fund, a biological research company focusing on the genetic level, it was impossible to have any contact with Gamora. However, the other party offered a price that Gamora could not refuse, to resurrect Flash Thompson. Of course, the resurrection here is not a real resurrection, but just a resurrection using genetic cloning technology. But for a father who has lost his child, what does it matter? As long as it is Flash, as long as it is his son, it will be fine. Obadiah Stane has a similar experience to Gamora. After being defeated by Marfa, Obadiah is immediately wanted by SHIELD and the FBI. As long as relevant information can be provided, once confirmed, a reward of $5 million will be obtained, and if it can assist in the arrest, a reward of $100 million will be obtained. Of course, the US government is unlikely to pay this money, but Tony Stark is willing. As a result, the whole of New York went crazy. People went out of their homes and took to the streets to try their luck. Whenever they saw someone who looked 10% like Obadiah, someone would call to report it. Therefore, the customer service staff of the reporting hotline all worked overtime, all holidays were cancelled, and they had to eat, drink, defecate and urinate in the office. Their lives were miserable. Fortunately, when Obadiah was desperate, Carlton Drake appeared. So, just like that, Obadiah and Gamora became Carlton's guests. The three people who would never have an intersection were all harboring their own ulterior motives, but fate magically brought them together. The three siblings of Marfa had just returned to New York from Washington, and their home welcomed guests. Mr. Maximo, Mrs. Maximoff, I am Happy Hogan, Mr. Tony Stark's personal bodyguard. Happy, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, sat in the living room of Marfa's house with a smile on his face and introduced himself. It's like this. Marfa's previous research topic at school was favored by Mr. Stark, so I came here on behalf of Stark Industries to present the research sponsorship fee. After that, Happy handed over a check for $20 million. This, so much? Obviously, Django was also shocked by Tony's generosity. Although Gamora had given a check for apology before, Django was a principled man and naturally disdained the money that came from shady sources. But now it was different. This was the research sponsorship given by Stark Industries because they saw his son's academic research. In other words, his son had made progress. As a father, what could make Django happier and more proud than this? Marfa, who was looking at the check, also smiled. It's Tony Stark as expected. He promised $10 million, but now he has doubled it. He's rich, rich. I heard that the two young masters and Miss Wanda were invited by the University of Washington to visit and study, so I delayed it. Otherwise, I would have brought you the good news a few days ago. Although Happy was not competent as a bodyguard, he had been with Tony for so long and had learned some courtesy at the wine table. Therefore, I had a pleasant chat with Django and Natalia. Mr. Stark wants to meet Marfa, the rising star, in person. What do you think? Finally, Happy finally revealed the purpose of this trip. This. Django hesitated. He had just returned from Washington. Was he going to California again? Would this delay his studies? Okay, I also want to meet the famous Mr. Iron Man. You know, I'm his fan. Seeing that Django didn't say anything, Marfa immediately took over the topic. Whether it was out of gratitude for the extra $10 million or to further get more points from Tony Stark, he still had to meet him. Especially since the plot of Iron Man 1 had just ended, Tony should have realized the problem of palladium poisoning at this time. P.S. Lobster specially rewatched Iron Man 1 for this. In the plot of Iron Man 1, Tony had already started drinking vegetable juice. This shows that he realized this when he made Mark III, an international airport in Europe. A lady in fur was browsing her phone in the VIP lounge. From the ticket in her hand, it can be seen that her destination is New York, USA. There is no doubt that this person is Agatha Harkness. Now that she knows that the Maximov family is in New York, there is no reason for Agatha not to meet the little guy who killed his pet. Especially these days, Agatha has completely digested the chaos magic absorbed from Natalia. Although she still cannot transform magic into chaos magic at this time, Agatha's magic is undoubtedly more advanced in both quality and quantity. Last time, it happened suddenly. Agatha was not prepared, and finally underestimated the enemy and was fooled by Marfa. This time, Agatha decided to go to New York to make a good plan. In any case, if this trip is not successful, it will be a death. She must get the source of chaos magic. Ding dong. Passengers, please pay attention. Due to weather reasons, Flight A370 to New York cannot take off temporarily. In order to ensure the safety of your life and property, the departure time will be postponed for 12 hours. Please forgive me. If you have any questions, please consult the staff in the terminal. Snap. The cup in Agatha's hand was crushed in an instant. The beautiful mood was gone at this moment. Damn weather, it dares to go against me. Walking out of the airport, finding an empty corner, Agatha directly used her magic power to fly into the sky. As we all know, intercontinental civil aircraft generally fly at an altitude of 8,000 to 12,000 meters. The reason for this choice is mainly because there is almost no wind, rain, thunder and lightning at this altitude, which is more conducive to the smooth flight of the aircraft. The so-called weather affects flight, in most cases, either during takeoff and landing, because during this process the aircraft will lower its altitude and enter the cloud. Or because it is a short-distance domestic flight, the flight altitude will be relatively low. Therefore, what Agatha has to do now is to disperse those charged cumulonimbus clouds. As Agatha flew higher and higher, the oxygen in the air gradually became thinner, and the temperature around her even dropped to purple level. However, Agatha, who was protected by the magic shield, didn't care about it. From today on, I, Agatha Harkness, will be fearless. All people or things that hinder my progress will be destroyed in my hands. As soon as the voice fell, the thick purple-black magic power gushed out of her body. For a moment, the clouds above the airport were immediately turned upside down. As Agatha's magic power continued to be output, after only 10 minutes, the sky above the airport, which was just dark and thunderous, was now clear and there was no cloud. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Subtle Friendship. California, 10080 Malibu Street, Tony Stark's beach house. Yo. Look, who's here? Shadow? No. Maybe I should call you a thief? Stealing armor? Or are you going to steal my secret technique? As soon as he entered the door, Marfa saw Tony Stark wearing a bathrobe, shaking his head and teasing Marfa with a playboy look. Pepper had already told Tony everything that happened before, and with his hacking skills, Tony easily learned from S.H.I.E.L.D. that Shadow was Marfa. Therefore, Tony was full of guilt for his impulsive behavior at the time, and the reason why he gave Marfa $20 million was for this reason. Of course, Tony would never admit this. But Tony instinctively doubted that the seriously injured Obadiah defeated Marfa and successfully escaped with the wreckage of Mark III. Of course, this doesn't mean that Tony is sure that it was Marfa who did it, but as a successful businessman, Tony will definitely consider the worst possible scenario. That's why Tony tried to test Marfa right away. Oh? Is this how Mr. Iron Man welcomes his savior? I was thinking that if the palladium poisoning problem can't be solved, maybe I can help you. Of course, if you want to have a Titanic-like separation with Miss Potts, I'm also happy to form a crowd of onlookers. Seeing that Tony wanted to give her a bad attitude, Marfa naturally retorted. What a joke, I'm a time traveler, okay. If Tony still holds the initiative tightly in his hands when everything is clear, wouldn't Marfa have lived for 2 lives in vain? SHH. As expected, as Marfa said this, Tony immediately put down the half-mixed wine in his hand, rushed forward in 2 steps, and covered Marfa's mouth. Come in and talk. Tony made a look at Marfa, and after confirming that Marfa would not continue to talk, Tony let go of his hands and took them to his laboratory. Is this the place where your iron armor was born? To be honest, it is a little different from what I imagined. Marfa found a seat nearby and sat down, picked up a bottle of wine on the table, and planned to have a drink. After all, Tony's wine is not cheap. What about 1982 Lafite? That's just the beginning. Even 1990 Romani Conti is not a rare thing. No. You can't drink that, Maybe you should try this. Tony snatched a bottle from Marfa's hand and stuffed a can of Pepsi into Marfa's hand. Marfa, although Tony looks unruly, he is actually very principled. He knows what he can do and what he can't do. Especially after experiencing the kidnapping incident in Afghanistan, Tony cares more about this kind of principled issue. Now Marfa is just a student like his future godson, Peter Parker. Minors are not allowed to drink in the United States. Tell me, how did you know about palladium poisoning? Also, you'd better pray that you don't tell anyone, otherwise Mr. Iron Man will tell your parents that you secretly joined SHIELD. Tony's attitude is very clear. Hurt each other. Who wouldn't do that? Come on. Ahem. You're awesome. Marfa was almost choked by the coke when Tony said that. To be honest, Marfa had thousands of ideas on the plane coming here, but he never thought that Tony would threaten him in this way. Giving Tony a thumbs up, Marfa had to admit that he had lied in vain in his second life. It's nothing, actually. The thing on your chest is indeed well kept secret, but don't forget that your company's power supply system is a giant arc reactor. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have specific information, its general operating principle is still archived and backed up. In addition, didn't Jarvis tell you that I have healing magic? Marfa took a breath and then said slowly. I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Maximoff's ability system does not have detailed records. Jarvis' voice sounded at the right time, indirectly answering Marfa's question. He pondered for a moment. First of all, you have to tell me honestly, is the disappearance of Obadiah and Mark III related to you? At this point, Tony has realized the importance of Marfa to him, but he must figure out this doubt that has been lingering in Tony's heart. Otherwise, he really can't trust Marfa, because that is the core issue involving his life safety after all. If I really wanted to help Obadiah, would I have needed to save you? You were unconscious at that time. It wouldn't be difficult for me to kill you with one punch. I believe if I really did that, Obadiah would definitely be very grateful to me, at least not less than $20 million. Jarvis. As soon as Marfa finished speaking, Tony immediately called Jarvis. Sir, according to data analysis, the credibility of what Marfa Maximoff just said is above 78%. Only 78%. Tony frowned and said. Sir, according to Mr. Maximoff, the original credibility was 98%, but his eyes just moved slightly downward, and his hands also made unnecessary movements at the same time. According to psychology, this situation is likely that the other party is hiding something. Therefore, after comprehensive evaluation, the value is determined to be 78%. Good guy. Marfa was convinced. It's worthy of Jarvis. Although the last 78% is still overestimated due to information asymmetry, it must be said that being able to do this is enough to prove Jarvis's extraordinariness. At least compared to Zio AI, it is not at the same level. Tell me your solution, I am judging whether I can trust you. Tony said after a long pause. Why? You asked me to tell you? Don't think you can use my parents to blackmail me unscrupulously. They all know that my 3 brothers and sisters are superpowered, even my mother herself. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D. is an organization under the UN Security Council. Even if I join, I think they will just reprimand me at most. Tony can't be allowed to lead like this anymore, otherwise it will be too disadvantageous for his own wool-pulling business. He must take back the initiative. Thinking of this, Marfa simply became a rogue to the end. Tony is the kind of person who disdains conspiracy and intrigue. Since Marfa said so, he really has no choice. Tell me your terms. Since he has lost the initiative in the negotiation, then let it be. Marfa is willing to say so much, at least it shows that he really wants to help him, although he may have to give up more benefits. But is it important? Tony Stark is not short of money. No conditions. My ability can quickly heal your injuries, but it cannot remove the shrapnel in your body. Therefore, you need to find someone. Marfa said. Of course, this does not mean that Marfa really paid for nothing, but compared to Tony's friendship, money is nothing. In short, Marfa is very satisfied to be able to raise his status to the same level as Tony, at least he does not have to learn to be Tony's lickdog like someone else. P.S. Happy, Parker, we feel offended. Who? Tony asked. Stephen Strange, a surgeon at Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York. He is currently the best surgical expert in the world. Only with his cooperation can I completely solve your problem. Jarvis. Okay, sir, I am looking for information about Stephen Strange for you. Stephen Strange was born in Philadelphia, USA, and graduated from Johns Hopkins Medical School. With his superb medical skills, he is praised by the outside world as God's gift to the surgical world. He is a very outstanding surgeon. He is currently working at Mount Sinai Medical Center. Jarvis is worthy of being Tony Stark's super butler. It took only 2 seconds to find the relevant information about Stephen Strange, and after screening, he provided Tony with useful information. Can it really be cured? No problem. Can I trust you? Whatever you want. Okay, Tony Stark, nice to meet you. Tony stretched out his right hand to Marfa. I hope you won't regret it. Marfa walked up, also stretched out his right hand and shook it tightly, and teased him by the way. Tony Stark never regrets anything he does. Tony increased the strength of his hand and said arrogantly, including trusting Obadiah and missing Miss Potts' birthday. Tony immediately backed down. Chapter 83, Magical Mental Combat Method. As the saying goes, killing someone is like destroying their heart, and Marfa's words undoubtedly hit Tony Stark's heart directly. As the helmsman of Stark Industries, Tony has always been able to get whatever he wants. In short, as long as he wants it, he can get it. If it's just that the money is not in place. However, there is something in this world that money can't buy, and that is feelings. Tony is a person who attaches great importance to feelings. When he was a child, Tony was jealous because Howard often talked about Captain America. For this reason, in the original plot, Tony didn't give Steve a bad look. With the death of Howard and his wife, Obadiah became his only relative in this world, so Obadiah became Tony's most cherished existence. Gradually, Tony became an adult, and Pepper Potts appeared in Tony's heart again. It can be said that both Pepper and Obadiah have special meanings to Tony. However, Obadiah's betrayal and missing Pepper's birthday again undoubtedly became scars on Tony's heart. Well, I suddenly realized that you are really an annoying child. Tony withdrew his hand and became arrogant again. Same here. Marfa retorted without showing any weakness. The first meeting between the two was spent in this unpleasantness. And this also destined Tony to instinctively develop a dislike for children of Marfa's age. This directly led to a lot of difficulties in Peter Parker's licking of Tony in the future. Let's not talk about these later. At night, Marfa stood alone on the sea view balcony, enjoying the luxurious sea breeze. It's time. If there's a blind spot for SHIELD's monitoring in the United States, Tony Stark's villa is undoubtedly one of them. After all, with Tony's technology, it is impossible for people to monitor their lives all the time. And this is what Marfa wants. Previously, Marfa got a total of 5 energy crystals of the Cosmic Cube from Pierce. For this reason, Nick Fury also specially found Alexander Pierce. Of course, Pierce's answer was also very simple and straightforward. Marfa is an excellent agent of SHIELD. If a few energy crystals can appease him and make him work harder for SHIELD, this deal is very cost-effective. Nick Fury considered that he would have to rely on Marfa to help him recruit Wanda and Pietro in the future. After some instructions, he did not pursue it too much. After sinking his consciousness into the sea of consciousness, Marfa quickly called up the skill of mental force combat. In the legendary online game, mental force combat was originally just a passive skill to increase attack hits. It is very useless for Taoist priests in the later period. However, it has manifested into powerful telekinesis in the real world, which Marfa can't help but sigh. At first, Marfa relied heavily on this skill. After all, it can fly, fight, and defend. It can be said to be a full-fledged skill. However, with the emergence of the soul fire symbol, the attack point was gradually replaced by the more powerful soul fire symbol. Even after learning the holy armor and ghost shield, the proportion of defense will be greatly reduced. The most important thing is that the upper limit of the legendary game is not enough for Marvel, a world like Ego that is itself a planet. It can be imagined that if Marfa only relies on the Taoist template at the beginning of the legend, the combat power of the last Thor will be the best. Not to mention Tobey Maguire alone, he has always had 30 tons of strength since the beginning of his ability awakening, and Pietro's current speed is beyond Marfa's visual capture ability. Not to mention Wanda, who is like a bug. Obviously, the current mental power combat method can no longer meet Marfa's needs. And what Marfa has to do now is to transform it. Taoist enhancement template. When the skill is upgraded to level 3, you can open the yin-yang fish of the skill on the skill page, and inject special materials into the eyes of the yin-yang fish to upgrade the skill. After careful consideration by Marfa, the opportunity for the transformation of telekinesis is the Cosmic Cube and Chaos Magic. First of all, there is the Cosmic Cube, whose core is the Space Stone among the 6 Infinity Stones, which possesses the power of space. Marvel's famous Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, was transformed by the energy of the Cosmic Cube and thus gained godlike power. As for chaos magic, it is even more magical. It not only has the ability to transform illusion and reality similar to the Reality Stone, but also can modify the probability at will. In Marvel Comics, Wanda almost exterminated the existence of mutants with this ability. It can be said that even compared with the power of the Infinity Stones, chaos magic is not inferior at all. A syringe of Wanda's blood and 5 energy crystals of the Cosmic Cube. This is Marfa's confidence. Don't ask where the blood comes from. In short, Marfa is ready for the next tragic fate. After putting the 2 into the fish eye respectively, the yin-yang fish in Marfa's spiritual sea of consciousness began to spin wildly. As the saying goes, Wuji gives birth to Taiji, and chaos gives birth to yin-yang. When the yin-yang fish rotates at high speed, penetrates each other, and merges again, it means that a new force will be born again. Congratulations to the host for successfully upgrading the skill, Mental Force Combat Method. The current level is the ultimate state and cannot be upgraded again. There is no description of this skill in the current version. Please explore it yourself. As the system prompt sounded, it meant that Marfa had completely transformed the Mental Force Combat Method. Then let's try your power. As Marfa's voice fell, a lavender halo flashed in his palm. Looking carefully, he saw that the halo was extremely charming, as if it was a black hole, making people unable to take their eyes off it. Then, as Marfa's hand stretched forward, the lavender halo immediately turned into an energy tentacle, extending in the direction of Marfa's palm. This seems to have died to telekinesis? What the hell? However, after the lavender halo touched the reef was like a truck that tilted and turned into debris in an instant. The effect seems to be quite good. Compared with the previous telekinesis, the power has been increased by at least 10 times. Although it has lost its concealment, it is not a loss overall. But is that all? If this is the effect of the enhanced chaos magic, what about the power of space? Thinking of this, Marfa fell into silence. Looking at another reef again, Marfa tried again. This time, Marfa did not turn the lavender halo into tentacles as before, but felt this new power with all his heart and soul. After a moment, Marfa's right hand suddenly stretched out again. The next moment, Marfa's right hand actually passed through the lavender halo directly. At the same time, a lavender halo also appeared near the reef that Marfa was looking at, and then the part of Marfa's arm that was immersed in the halo actually stretched out from another halo. This is. Looking at this magical scene in front of him, Marfa's pupils shrank suddenly, and then shrank again, and continued to shrink. The explanation of mental force warfare in the real world is, through the auxiliary adjustment of telekinesis, the attack trajectory is adjusted in time when the move is made, so as to improve the hit rate. If all skills are regarded as skill trees, this move can also be regarded as a prerequisite skill for poisoning and soul fire talismans. After strengthening, it not only improves the strength of telekinesis, but also improves the hit rate by eliminating the distance between the target and the target in disguise. Just ask, how could an attack at zero distance fail? Thinking of this, Marfa immediately took out an amulet from the storage backpack. Soulfire Talisman. As expected, unlike the previous use of the Soulfire Talisman, the Soulfire Talisman thrown out this time was obviously surrounded by a circle of light purple halo, and its flying speed was substantially improved. Boom! The Soulfire Talisman exploded on the sea surface, and with the explosion as the center, a hemispherical waterless area with a radius of about 3 meters immediately appeared. Good guy. Is it okay to turn a single attack into a group attack? Who dares to say that I don't have a way to deal group damage in the future? Another amulet appeared in Marfa's hand. Recalling the previous feeling, a lavender halo immediately appeared in front of Marfa. Marfa waved his hand casually, and the Soulfire Talisman was used again. At the moment when the Soulfire Talisman passed through the lavender light, the Soulfire Talisman disappeared. It was still the same sea area as before. With the appearance of a circle of halo, an amulet suddenly emerged from it and exploded directly on the sea surface. Nice. A group damage skill without a flying trajectory. Chapter 84, Departure. Woma Temple. The advanced mental warfare method has been tested, and Marfa is quite satisfied with the effect. Marfa even has a bold guess that if he continues to develop this skill, he may be able to achieve the effect similar to Blink, played by Fan Bingbing in X-Men, connecting the space nodes of two places at will within the line of sight and opening the portal. If he can really do this, the only difference compared to Kamar Taj's portal magic is the distance problem. Asshole boy, you'd better be quiet. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you back by plane right now. Just as Marfa was thinking, Tony Stark's voice spread to every corner of the beach villa through the tweeter. Obviously, the two consecutive explosions before should have woken Tony up, or interrupted his rhythm of pushing the cart. Do you want to take a live shot? Play it on the background board when Tony and Pepper get married. I think Tony will be very grateful for his wedding gift. Marfa was naturally reluctant to play with his new ability just now. While the novelty was still there, Marfa decided to go to the legendary world. No matter what, he would upgrade to level 20 first. When a Taoist reaches level 20, he can not only learn the invisibility skill, but also upgrade the poisoning skill to level 3, thus achieving the prerequisite for transformation and advancement. Unlike the Soulfire Talisman, the poisoning skill was a love-hate skill for the Taoist in the 3-hero version. What he loved was of course its effect, which was very immediate. What he hated was its casting materials, the gray poison powder and the yellow poison powder. The refining materials of these two things need to be obtained from monsters, which undoubtedly greatly increases the workload of the Taoist before the war. Marfa remembered that when he was playing another online game called World of Warcraft in his previous life, the warlock profession needed to absorb a backpack of soul stones 1 or 2 hours in advance before playing a team dungeon to maintain the consumption of a team dungeon. This is a bit similar to that of the Taoist. Marfa has also thought about the advanced direction of the poisoning skill. First of all, he must solve the problem of casting materials, and it is best to be able to cast spells without materials. The second is the effect of poisoning. If you can increase the weakening effect while reducing blood and defense, it will be perfect. Thinking of this, Marfa did not go back to the room this time. He found a sofa on the balcony and lay down like Jehu. His mind sank into the sea of consciousness. After pushing open the heavy stone door, Marfa appeared in the legendary world again. This time, Marfa decided not to brush the Bicky Mine Cave. After all, that place is too gloomy and terrifying. If there is no choice, Marfa will definitely not want to face those zombies with rotten meat on their faces and maggots on their bodies. Now that the level has reached level 19, there are skeletons and soulfire symbols. In other words, it is not very dangerous to go to the Woma temple. Do it as you think of it. Marfa immediately bought a bunch of potions and random teleportation scrolls and headed towards the Woma temple. The Woma temple can be said to be a very legendary place in the background of the legendary game. As the oldest sect in the Marfa continent, the Woma religion has tens of thousands of believers. The final boss of the Woma temple, the Woma Cult Master, is the first Cult Master level boss in the Legend game. He is one of the 3 great demons under the Red Moon Demon, along with the Rainbow Demon Cult Master of the Demon Ceiling Hall and the Zuma Cult Master of the Zuma Temple. If you ask Legend players which boss they remember most, the Woma Cult Master is definitely one of the top ones. This is not to say how strong it is, but the Woma horn dropped by the Woma Cult Master is a must-have item for forming a gang in the game. Back then, in order to compete for the ownership of the Woma horn, the 3rd floor of the Woma temple was crowded with people. Ice roar, fire wall, hell lightning, poisoning. Overwhelming skills are spread across every corner. Random teleport. Random teleport. After using 3 sets of random teleport scrolls, Marfa finally arrived at the northern border of Bichi province. To be honest, this is the first time Marfa has left Bichi province. Marfa still has a special feeling for this place where he was born. It can be said that Bichi province has witnessed Marfa's growth along the way. Please stop. Just as Marfa was about to cross the border to the Woma forest, an archer guard did call Marfa. Damn, could this be another special NPC like the grocery store owner? That, guard brother, are you calling me? Marfa asked in confusion. What else? Are there other adventurers here besides you? Marfa. He made a lot of sense, and I was speechless to refute. Adventurer, are you going to explore the Woma temple? The archer guard asked. Isn't it obvious? Marfa was too lazy to talk nonsense with the archer guard for such a question that he asked knowingly, and immediately put on a black face. Ahem, it's like this. The nephew of my wife's younger brother's second cousin's father-in-law recently gathered a group of Eagle Guards at Berryman and wanted to establish a force. So he wants a Woma horn. If you can help with this, I can give you a skilled book of temptation light. Temptation light? Marfa's mouth twitched slightly. What a joke, isn't that a level 13 skilled book for mages? It's available in stores in the province of Biki, and you can buy it for just a few hundred gold coins. Could it be that he thinks I'm someone who is short of these few hundred gold coins? As if he had seen through Marfa's thoughts, the archer guard scratched his head. Blame me, I didn't make it clear. My wife's younger brother's second cousin's father-in-law's nephew's father is the White Sun Gate Shianzan. Don't underestimate this skill book. It's the Taoist secret book created by my wife's younger brother's second cousin's father-in-law's nephew's father, imitating the magician's skills. This skilled book is considered a treasure even in the entire Marfa continent. The archer guard said confidently. What? Taoist secret book? Light of temptation. Marfa was shocked. You know, light of temptation is a skill used by magicians to brainwash wild monsters and make them willingly become magician battle pets. Except that pets cannot be resurrected after death and need to be captured again. It is not inferior to the Taoist summoning technique. After all, the light of temptation can control 5 combat pets at the same time. Thinking of this, Marfa couldn't help but get excited. But the Wammer horn, that is the drop of the Wammer cult master, which means that if you want to get the Wammer horn, you must kill the Wammer cult master first. This is a bit difficult. Marfa frowned and thought. If Marfa is now level 20, he will accept this task without hesitation. After all, a level 20 Taoist priest means that he has invisibility. Then he can slowly clear the monsters on the densely packed Wammer 3rd floor and finally kill the Wammer cult master. But Marfa is only level 19 now. It can be imagined that with his current situation, if he enters the 3rd floor of Wammer, the dark warriors with thousands of arrows will be enough to give him a hard time. Adventurer? Adventurer. Seeing Marfa standing there in a daze, the archer guard immediately reminded him. Oh. It's okay, no problem, leave this to me. Marfa patted his chest and said confidently. It seems that this trip to the Woma Temple has added a new goal. Chapter 85, Woma Temple Hall. Alice, it seems that I have to bleed a lot in order to get the light of temptation this time. Galloping on the tree-lined path of the Woma forest, Marfa sighed in his heart. As for killing the Woma leader, Marfa has already thought of a somewhat despicable and obscene plan, so Marfa is not worried about this. The main problem now is invisibility. This is like an admission ticket to the 3rd floor of Woma. Without invisibility, it means that you can't enter the 3rd floor of Woma. Therefore, the top priority is to upgrade. After about 10 minutes of random teleportation and walking, Marfa finally came to the entrance of the Woma Temple. It's called a temple, but it's just a huge cave entrance embedded in the rock wall. Maybe it's because of geological changes? Or does the Woma leader think that a temple should be a cave? In short, he is very different from the blue brick and black tile temple that Marfa imagined. Glancing around the cave entrance, this is a building like the French Arc de Triomphe. The difference is that the building in front of him is completely carved on the basis of the rock wall. The doorpost depicts the glorious past of the Woma believers, an era of countless winged humanoid creatures. Stepping into the gate of the Woma Temple, Marfa immediately felt an extremely depressing atmosphere, as if he had entered another time and space. The worn-out yellow bricks under his feet were no longer as bright as they were in the past, and there was still a lot of moss attached to them. The surrounding stone walls were engraved with dense, ancient and mysterious words and patterns, as if telling a glorious history. I give this restoration a 9, one more point for a fear that you will be proud. Marfa murmured, and immediately regrouped and planned to continue exploring. Shishi, shishi. Suddenly, shrill screams rang out one after another. Then he saw a black mass flying towards Marfa. Oh my god, what the hell? When the other party flew closer, Marfa could see clearly that it was a group of cave bats. SARS? COVID-19. Damn, it was waiting for me here. I should have brought a few more masks. As the cave bats got closer, the sound of the wings flapping became clearer. Marfa stopped hesitating. Summon the skeleton. Little White, come on. This Little White is not the previous Little White. According to the system description, the Little White in the legendary world does not have independent consciousness. Therefore, Marfa is not worried that the one in front of him is a complete pitfall like the one he put into the amulet. Sure enough, with Marfa's command, Little White immediately raised his axe and rushed towards the cave bats. That scene made Marfa feel comforted. Right, this is a familiar feeling, a familiar formula. The moment the cave bats saw Little White, they immediately rushed towards it in groups. Now, Soulfire Talisman. But Marfa suddenly threw out a talisman in his hand. After being attached with a layer of lavender light, the talisman sank directly into the void. When it reappeared, it had already arrived at the center of the cave bat group. Boom! The talisman exploded. A ball of flame burst out in all directions like a gorgeous firework. -20, -18, -25, -19. The cave bats only have 25 drops. After this attack, almost all the cave bats have become residual blood. Take advantage of your illness to kill you. Marfa made a prompt decision and used the Soulfire Talisman skill again. Boom! The explosion sounded again. All the bats turned into corpses and fell to the ground. Cool. Looking at the messy corpses on the ground, Marfa couldn't help but shout out. Taoist priests with group damage skills are different. This effect is comparable to the bursting flames of the mage. It's just a pity that because of the different rules of the world, the mental power warfare method in the legendary world cannot be used alone in the form of telekinesis like in the real world. Otherwise, if I make an energy shield or something, wouldn't I be able to copy a magic shield? After getting rid of the messy thoughts in his mind, Marfa immediately sorted out the spoils. The cave bats provide very little experience points, which is comparable to the chickens and deer, but this guy can drop a return scroll. Although Marfa has now overcome the problem of motion sickness during teleportation, isn't it better to be able to return to the city directly than a dungeon escape scroll? 1, 2, 3. It's a waste. These dozens of bats actually dropped 12 return scrolls. Looking at the green return scrolls in front of him, Marfa couldn't help but think of the old witch who was cheated by this thing. I just don't know if she has come out of the shadow of losing favor. New York International Airport. Agatha, who walked out of the VIP channel, suddenly sneezed inexplicably. Damn, it seems that I am allergic to that vicious little ghost. I just arrived in New York and I sneezed. Legendary World, Woma Temple Hall. HU. Damn, is that old witch also cursing me behind my back? Otherwise, how could I have sneezed just thinking of her? New York International Airport. HU. Woma Temple HU. Let's not talk about the infinite nesting dolls here. Stephen Strange, who is also in New York at this time, ushered in another highlight moment in his career. Pepper Potts, the personal secretary of the famous CEO of Stark Industries, invited Stephen to California to see him on behalf of Tony Stark. The consultation fee is $50 million. $50 million, converted into more than 300 million RMB. This is just the account that is paid on the surface. In fact, Pepper also privately gave Stephen $50 million as a hard work fee. After all, it is to avoid taxes. Pepper is not as extravagant as Tony. As a personal secretary, she still has to save for her boss. What if one day? Isn't it all her own money? Oh, what am I thinking? If I really marry him, wouldn't others think I'm a scheming bitch trying to get close to someone rich and powerful? Pepper shook her head vigorously and tried to calm herself down. He's my boss. I'm just doing my job. I have absolutely no other thoughts. She kept repeating in her heart. At this moment, Pepper was like a little girl who fell in love for the first time. On one side was public opinion, and on the other side was the most important person. Ms. Potts, Ms. Potts. Stephen looked at Pepper in front of him, her face flushed, shaking her head constantly, and completely losing her previous capable appearance. She was a little confused. It's nothing. I'm very sorry, Mr. Strange, I just lost my temper. But by the way, you may be on the New York Times tomorrow. Maybe you will also have a place in Time magazine. Turning around, Pepper immediately regained her usual calmness. Really? What do you think the New York Times will say about me? The most evil doctor in the world? Or taking advantage of the situation to ask patients for sky-high consultation fees? Stephen said jokingly. He has long been famous and is considered an upper-class person in New York. He has a mansion, famous watches, and luxury cars. Although there is a big gap between him and Tony in terms of status, if he is just Tony's secretary, Stephen can still handle it easily. No, Mr. Strange is too modest. With your ability, you are definitely worth the price. Maybe I gave you too little. In the New York Temple, the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, who is meditating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. Incredible. This is completely different from what I have seen before. The person who is favored by wisdom actually got together with him in advance. I am really not used to this kind of vague future. It seems that I have to remind that interesting little guy, and it can be regarded as paying him back in advance for adding a good seedling to Kamartaj. Blood flowed from the corner of Ancient One's mouth, but it could not hide her smile from the heart. Chapter 86 Legendary Strongest Monster. Xiaobei, come on. Kirakura. On the second floor of the Woma Temple, Marfa commanded Xiaobei to rush towards the gathering place of a group of Flame Woma and Woma warriors. He had been brushing the Woma Temple for nearly 10 hours in a row, and the monsters on the first floor of Woma had been cleared by Marfa. With Xiaobei's desperate efforts to gather monsters for Marfa, and the Soul Fire Talisman that increased the group damage effect, Marfa's monster brushing speed has made a qualitative leap. In just 600 minutes, Marfa's experience bar has risen to about 95%. It takes 140,000 experience points to upgrade from level 19 to level 20, and each Flame Woma and Woma warrior can provide Marfa with 290 experience points. In other words, Marfa only needs to brush one more monster, and he can raise his level to 20. Boom boom. Explosions came one after another. Due to the high-intensity casting, the full backpack of magic potions prepared by Marfa was also consumed. It is worth mentioning that in the process of slaying monsters, Marfa discovered that if the monsters hate Xiaobei, if the transmission exit of the soul fire symbol is set near Xiaobei, then the monsters will think that this is an attack from Xiaobei on them. In this way, there is no problem that the monsters suddenly turn their targets to attack Marfa. If it is put in reality, combined with the invisibility technique, this trick seems to be quite good for shady people. Imagine if Tony and Hulk stand together, and Marfa is invisible on the side. Through the ability of space transmission, set a transmission exit next to Tony. Then take a machine gun and shoot at Hulk. With Hulk's personality, I'm afraid he will directly attack Tony with a backhand, and then throw a rag bag. Or Pietro and a girl are squeezing on the bus, and he quietly grabs the girl's buttocks through space transmission. Maybe Marfa has successfully advanced to Cupid. As long as he thinks of those coquettish operations, Marfa feels happy. Thinking of this, Marfa did not stop and immediately went to the next floor along the stairs he had just found. Puff, gurgle gurgle, puff, gurgle gurgle. Before he walked out of the passage, a slightly disgusting sound came into Marfa's ears. What the hell? He looked around in the direction of the sound. But he saw a shit yellow monster lying on the ground at this moment, looking at Marfa with his squinting eyes. The monster was shaped like a lizard, but had no legs. It was covered with pustules all over its body, and an indescribable stench continued to emanate from its body. Especially his pouting mouth that seemed to want to kiss. Fuck. How could I forget it? If you ask what monster is the most disgusting in the legendary world, cave maggots and zombies are indeed among the top, but compared to the one in front of him, it is still not good enough. It has a terrifying name: dung beetle. As the name suggests, the dung beetle, whether in color or shape, looks like a piece of feces with arms. Coupled with his refreshing strong smell. Let's just say, there is. Who? Xiaobei, please start your performance. Marfa looked at the dung bug in front of him, took 2 steps back with a look of disgust, and immediately urged Xiaobei to fight quickly. Xiaobei in the legendary world has no independent consciousness, but Marfa vaguely felt that Xiaobei's speed when rushing towards the dung bug seemed to be a little slower than before. Haha, it seems that this is indeed a guy that even the skeletons dislike. Soon, Xiaobei and the dung bug fought, even though Xiaobei only had 84 HP, while the dung bug had 155 HP. But each attack of the dung bug can only cause about 4 to 6 points of damage to Xiaobei, and when Xiaobei's axe goes down, the dung bug will lose 13 to 17 points of damage, and even Xiaobei's attack speed is much faster than that of the dung bug. However, what Marfa really cares about is not the attack damage of the dung bug, but the attack method. Unlike cave maggots, the only attack method of dung beetles is to spray feces. That's right, it's spitting feces, and it's the kind of golden-colored feces that humans produce when they have diarrhea. Wow, just spraying it casually, the flying feces are simply amazing. This move is undoubtedly not very harmful, but it is absolutely invincible in terms of insult. In a short while, the dung beetle was chopped down by Xiaobei. Seeing Xiaobei splashed with feces, Marfa's face was horrified. Alice. I just don't know if the light of temptation can catch dung beetles as battle pets. If it can, I will just close the door and release the dung beetles if I don't like someone in the future. Moreover, even wild dung beetles can spray dung 1 meter away. What if it is upgraded to level 7? What if 5 dung beetles are caught at the same time? Would that be invincible? What Thanos, what Ronan, I just want to ask you if you are afraid. When playing the legendary game in the previous life, because it was only a 2.5D computer game, no one would try to catch a weak monster like a dung beetle as a battle pet, so Marfa didn't know if this thing could be caught. But if it was really caught and brought to the real world. As if thinking of something bad, Marfa couldn't help but reveal a weird arc at the corner of his mouth. Finally, as Xiaobei chopped down with the last axe, the dung beetle also completely lost its life. However, the body of the dead dung beetle actually began to swell up. Not good. Marfa was horrified, and immediately didn't care about anything, rolled up his trouser legs and ran to the other side quickly. As expected, the next second, the dung beetle exploded. But I saw lumps, drops, pieces. In short, countless feces poured down like raindrops as the dung beetle exploded. The scene scared Marfa so much that his face turned pale, and he was even more scared. Kirakura. Xiaobei, who was completely unaware of this, continued to walk towards Marfa with an axe like a tool. Because Xiaobei was too close to it when the dung beetle exploded, Xiaobei's body was covered with feces at this time. The originally white jade-like skeleton turned yellow under the infection of feces. With every step, some feces would slide off Xiaobei's body. A series of feces yellow skeleton footprints proved that Xiaobei was now impure. Stop, stop, stop. You stop right there, don't come over, don't come over. Seeing Xiaobei walking towards him, Marfa shouted and forcibly stopped Xiaobei's figure. What a joke, if I let him come closer, what if he hits me? Shivering secretly, Marfa immediately used the cancel summon skill on Xiaobei. Swoosh! Xiaobei disappeared, and Marfa's heart was relieved. It seems that I underestimated this world after all. I didn't expect a mere dung beetle to be so terrifying. I hope there won't be similar creatures in the future. Use the summon skeleton skill again. A white skeleton immediately appeared in front of Marfa. White is still pleasing to the eye. Secretly made up his mind, I must take a detour next time I encounter a dung beetle. As a result, within a few minutes, Marfa was slapped in the face. What appeared in front of him were 4 fresh dung beetles. And surrounded by them was a Wommer guard. Chapter 87, Divine Artifacts to Subdue Demons. The Wommer guard is second only to the Wommer cult master in the Wommer temple. It has a bull head and a human body, with muscular body, holding the moon and the well in one hand and the wolf fang blade in the other. When fighting, it will jump high, and then cross-cut with both hands holding the weapons. The attack posture alone is far ahead of Xiaobei. The most important thing is that the Wommer guard will drop some Wommer-level equipment, special rings, and even one of the warrior's eating skills, the half-moon scimitar. Back then, whether it was the special ring or the half-moon scimitar skill book, it could be sold at a high price. So it is not an exaggeration to say that the Wommer guard in front of him is the first treasure monster that Marfa has encountered in his legendary career. But here comes the problem, dung beetles, and there are 4 of them. Just a moment ago, Marfa secretly made up his mind to avoid fighting with dung beetles as much as possible. But now, I have to say that this slap in the face came too fast. It was so fast that Marfa was caught off guard. What to do? Fight? Or not? Marfa was very entangled. After thinking for a long time, Marfa finally gritted his teeth and decided to give it a try. After all, that is a special ring. That is a Wommer-level equipment. Unlike other monsters, Wommer guards are rare monsters that can only be encountered by chance. If you miss it, God knows when you will meet them again. Xiaobei, you stand here and don't move. Marfa thought about it and immediately gave Xiaobei an order. Unlike other monsters, Wommer guards are the second in command of Wommer Temple. Marfa dare not pull them together and directly attack them like bats in caves. The reason why Taoist priests are the king of treasure hunting among the 3 professions is not because of how high their damage is, but because of the brains of Taoist priests and the mechanism of the Taoist profession. Hey, grandsons. As Marfa trotted all the way, he ran past 4 dung bugs and Wommer guards, and the 5 monsters immediately hated Marfa. One by one, they lined up and rushed towards Marfa. Marfa, however, galloped all the way without looking back, taking advantage of the large space near the entrance of the second floor to run in circles with 5 monsters. Since the speed of the Woma guards was much faster than that of the dung bugs, soon, 4 dung bugs fell behind. Now is the time. Marfa saw the opportunity and immediately established a space handover with Xiaobai's position, and then threw out an amulet. Soulfire Talisman. The amulet exploded on the dung bugs, and instantly gathered all the hatred of the dung bugs on Xiaobai, and rushed towards Xiaobai. Taking advantage of this moment, Marfa immediately went back to the first floor of the Woma temple to clear the hatred of the Woma guards on himself. Xiaobai also followed his master and appeared on the first floor of the Woma temple. The Woma guards and dung bugs, who had lost their target, immediately stood there in a daze. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? 3 questions about the philosophy of life JPG. Taking Xiaobai back to the second floor of the Woma temple again, the dung bugs and Woma guards had been successfully divided into 2 groups. Nice. This way, there is no need to kill the dung bugs. As smart as I am. Marfa said proudly in his heart. The previous ghost operation also gave Marfa an inspiration to kill the Woma guard without injury. Ping pong tactics. Ping pong tactics originally refers to 2 players with long-range attack skills and similar damage values, slipping monsters by grabbing hatred values. When the monster approaches a player, the player stops and lets the other player output crazily, causing the monster to run to him. When the monster approaches the other party, it stops immediately, and the player who started the game outputs crazily, allowing the monster to go back to the previous player. In this way, the monster can keep going back and forth between the 2 like a ping-pong ball, and never attack any player. Nowadays, although Marfa has no teammates to cooperate, he has Xiaobei and the ability to teleport. This operation can be completed by 1 person. Still like before, fix Xiaobei in 1 position first. Marfa attracted the hatred of the Woma guard with the Soulfire symbol. 25 The bright red number floated over the head of the Woma guard. Marfa retreated decisively and quickly, and then another Soulfire talisman was thrown. 23 That's about it. After calculating that the Woma guard and Xiaobai were almost in a straight line, Marfa immediately connected the special node where Xiaobai was. Soulfire Talisman. Soulfire Talisman. 28, -21 2 consecutive attacks landed on the Woma guard. The Woma guard immediately turned around, staring at the stupid skeleton in front of him with a pair of red bull eyes. Immediately, the Woma guard picked up his weapon and walked towards Bai. It was quite like he would not stop until Xiaobai was killed. But then, 2 more Soulfire Talismans floated out from Marfa's side. 25, -24 The Woma guard turned around again. 1000 HP, this is the monster with the most HP that Marfa has encountered so far. It is unknown how long it took, but the HP bar of the Woma guard finally reached the bottom due to Marfa's unremitting efforts and Xiaobei's unremitting slacking. Now, seeing that it was almost time, Marfa immediately took out a bottle of super golden wound medicine from his backpack and poured it on his hand without hesitation. His hand turned red. Then he took out a bottle of sun water, unscrewed the bottle cap and sprinkled it on the Woma guard. This is called the Golden Legend. Finally, accompanied by an unwilling roar, the Woma guard fell into a pool of blood with his eyes glaring. Poor child, he didn't touch Marfa until he died. Kirakura. Xiaobei opened his mouth and shouted twice, as if because he had been standing for a long time. Of course, Marfa just thought that Xiaobei was cheering for him. Look, it's not a big deal, isn't it just a boss? I asked, who else? Marfa shouted arrogantly. Xiaobei, go and have some fun with those dung bugs, leave the cleaning of the battlefield to me. Marfa ordered. Kirakura. Xiaobei turned around and walked towards the dung bugs. Why did it walk? Did it try to kill monsters before? No matter what, looking at the sparkling ground in front of him, Marfa's eyes were straight for X5 explosion. Look, what are there? Platinum ring, demon exorcist, half-moon scimitar, invisibility, poison, attack potion, strong sun water. Why do I feel so uncomfortable suddenly? Except for the platinum ring, half-moon scimitar and attack potion, which can be regarded as good things, the others are all street goods sold in stores. And the half-moon scimitar is a warrior skill, which cannot be learned by myself. This is very desperate. Where is the promised red hand? Where is the promised golden legend? Looking at the glittering gems on the ground, Marfa's mood at the moment is mixed. With the idea that even a small mosquito is meat, Marfa finally decided to pick up all the drops one by one. After all, even if he threw them in the store, he could sell them for money, right? What's more, Marfa now has a task to get a gold bar for the grocery store owner. That's a full 1 million gold coins. However, when Marfa picked up the Demon Slayer, his eyes immediately flickered. Gold. Golden legend. Damn. It's really red. Demon Slayer durability. 6/25, attack. 6-13, +2, magic. 0-4, +4, Taoism. 1-5, +3, accuracy, +1, required level. 20. What a joke, this is a Demon Slayer. Let alone the Silver Snake, even the Taoist magic of the Wuji stick is only 3-5. This weapon is simply against the sky. Even though Marfa had played Legend for so long in his previous life, he had never seen such a top-quality weapon. Holding the Demon Slayer in his hand and stroking it gently, Marfa felt like he was stroking a peerless beauty. The cool and silky touch of the sword blade made Marfa simply unable to extricate himself. After carefully putting the Demon Slayer into his backpack, Marfa once again looked at the silver-white ring in his hand. Platinum ring durability. 4/6, Taoism. 0-4, Taoism required. 17. It is quite satisfactory, not a top-quality one, but the 0-4 Taoism bonus is much stronger than the 0-1 glass ring of Taoism that Marfa is wearing now. It's just a pity that Marfa's current Taoism limit is only 14 points, and he can't afford this thing. Although at this time, Marfa would rather rush to level 20 in one breath and directly wear the super top-quality Demon Slayer, but unfortunately the blue medicine is almost used up. Moreover, Marfa is obsessive-compulsive, and the Demon Slayer's durability is only 6 points. Marfa always feels that this thing will suddenly break. So, after careful consideration, Marfa decided to go back for supplies first, and go to the blacksmith shop to repair and subdue the demons. Chapter 88 Ancient One's Visit. 1 hour later, near the entrance to the 3rd floor of the Woma Temple. Finally reached level 20. Marfa heaved a sigh of relief and looked at the remaining game points. There were still 2,600 minutes left. In other words, it took Marfa nearly 17 hours to upgrade from level 19 to level 20, and that was under the premise that the Soulfire Talisman became a group damage skill. If it weren't for the blessing of the mental force combat method, this time might have been much longer. It seems that leveling is becoming more and more difficult. I just don't know if the system will release a monthly card mechanism in the future. Otherwise, if this goes on for a long time, using game point cards to improve strength will probably become more and more inadequate. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist. Level 20, Defense. 3-6, Magic Defense. 3-7, Attack. 6-17, Magic. 0-4, Taoist Spells. 3-21, Physical Value, Blood. 131/131, Magic Value, Blue. 123/123, Skills, Healing Level 3, Mental Power Combat Max, Spider Sense, cannot be upgraded, Poisoning Level 3, Soulfire Talisman Level 1, Summon Skeleton Level 1, Invisibility Level 1, Equipment, Demon Subduing, Top Quality, Light Armor, Male, Sturdy Gloves, Top Quality, Taoist Bracelet, Top Quality, Platinum Ring 1, Glass Ring 1, Top Quality, Phoenix Pearl, Top Quality, Magic Helmet. Very good. After taking a look at his attribute panel, Marfa directly exited the legendary world and returned to the real world. It was still the ridiculously spacious sea view balcony, and the cool sea breeze. However, the current Marfa and the Marfa of the previous second have made a qualitative leap in strength. At level 21, you can learn group invisibility and upgrade the Soulfire symbol to level 2. It seems that I have to keep working hard. However, I have to ask Tony for help with this matter of the Woma leader. If I don't have that thing, it will be too difficult to take down the 3rd floor of Woma. Marfa whispered softly. Indeed, unlike the 1st and 2nd floors of the Woma temple, the area of the 3rd floor of Woma is much smaller than the first two. However, the number of monsters on the 3rd floor of Woma is more than 10 times the sum of the first 2 floors. It can be imagined that if Marfa rushed in like this, even with invisibility, it would not be possible to clear the monsters on the 3rd floor of Woma in a short time. In this way, not only is it a waste of time, But Marfa may clear half of the map before it refreshes again. If it is just for leveling up by killing monsters, then it is nothing, but if you want to kill the Wamor leader, then clearing the 3rd floor of Wamor is a prerequisite. Because the Wamor leader has a special mechanism. Once he finds that he cannot beat his opponent, he will teleport away. Although due to the rules of the game, the Wamor leader will still appear in a corner of the 3rd floor of Wamor, even if he teleports. But what if he teleports to the monster pile? Continue to clear the monsters? Maybe when Marfa finishes clearing, the blood of the Wamor leader will be full again. In the game of the previous life, this is easy to solve. Just call a few friends and clear the monsters together. Or you can directly find 3 or 5 big guys to help. It's nothing more than a half-moon scimitar, a firewall, and an ice roller to easily get the job done. But now, Marfa is playing a single-player game, which is very challenging. Marfa must kill the Wamor leader directly before the monster refreshes. This requires Marfa to have super strong group damage output. Obviously, Marfa today can't do it at all. However, this is not absolute. At least if he can get the help of Tony Stark, Marfa has 90% confidence that he can easily take down the leader of Woma. The sky gradually brightened. Unfortunately, the Pacific Ocean is located to the west of California, so the sea view balcony of Tony Stark's house is also facing west, so Marfa can't see the spectacular side of the sunrise on the sea. But with the sunrise, the servants and cooks in the sea view villa began to get busy. They are familiar with Tony's living habits and know that Tony Stark has no habit of sleeping late, so there's not much time left for them. Tony gave everyone a very generous salary. Working here for a day is almost equivalent to working hard for a month. In order not to be fired by Tony, everyone works very seriously and quickly. You can do whatever you want with the money, Marfa said jokingly. Of course, Marfa now has tens of millions of dollars. If he wants, he can buy a small villa and hire 3 or 5 servants. But Marfa knows that good steel should be used on the blade. Samuel Stern's research on Hulk serum is a bottomless pit. The money he was given earlier alone would not last long. And Hulk serum is of great significance to Marfa. Both Pietro and Marfa themselves urgently need to quickly strengthen their physical fitness to deal with more dangers that may occur in the future. Marfa does not want her stupid Oni-chan to be killed inexplicably by a bullet in the future. Yo. You got up quite early. Tony's voice came from the stairs, but seeing that he was in pajamas, his face did not show the fatigue of just getting up, but was full of energy and radiant. Ahem, Mr. Stark, to be precise, I didn't sleep all night. You made too much noise. I think I need to mention it to Miss Potts and ask her to strengthen the sound insulation of the house for you. Marfa shrugged and teased. Oh, shit. Impossible. My sound insulation is... Tony suddenly stopped talking halfway. You're trying to trick me? Young man. You don't have martial ethics. Take it and stuff your mouth. Tony was not annoyed. He seemed to be used to Marfa's character. He threw a glass of milk on the table to Marfa. Isn't it just a bad mouth? This is like me. Tony thought secretly in his heart. In fact, what he didn't know was that Marfa would only be bad-mouthed when he was with Tony. This is probably the so-called the company of black people is black. The glass of milk flying towards Marfa suddenly hit a lavender halo in midair, and then appeared in the place where it was previously placed. Sorry, I don't have the habit of eating before brushing my teeth. Tisk. You're so picky. After saying that, Tony picked up a cheese sandwich on the table and stuffed it into his mouth. His heart was not as calm as it seemed. What was that just now? Space folding technology. As a loyal believer in materialism, Tony didn't believe in magic, even if he saw it with his own eyes. Jarvis. Have you analyzed it? Tony said to the air. Sir, a quantum space tunnel appeared on the purple halo just now, but I didn't scan any related equipment on Mr. Maximoff. Jarvis, as Tony Stark's artificial intelligence butler, was naturally familiar with Tony's thinking and living habits, so he turned on the scanning function for everything around him the moment Marfa used his skills. Well, I have to say, you have successfully aroused my interest. Really? Then I am really honored. Marfa said with a smile. But just as the voice fell, accompanied by a hissing sound, a spark circle appeared out of thin air in front of Marfa. Marfa, I'm afraid you have to go back to New York. Agatha Harkness is here. The voice came before the person arrived. Ancient One, dressed in a bright yellow robe, slowly walked out of the spark circle. Who are you? I don't remember inviting you. Tony Stark on the side frowned when he saw this. Regardless of the identity of the person in front of him, the way she appeared was obviously similar to the ability that Marfa had just used. If it was just Marfa, it would be fine. But if this ability was already common, and Tony Stark still couldn't understand it, wouldn't it mean that he was useless? But before Tony could continue to speak, Ancient One stepped forward quickly and slapped Tony's soul body out with one palm. Marfa, you go first. Mr. Stark and I still have something to talk about. After saying that, Ancient One stretched out his hand again, and a portal to New York appeared in front of Marfa. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Recruiting a Disciple. Magic Iron Man. What happened to me? Tony Stark looked around in confusion as his soul left his body. Just now, Tony suddenly saw the person rushing forward quickly and came to him, and then, isn't that me? Looking at the body under his feet, Tony's eyes widened. Fuck. I just died like this? How is it possible? I haven't explained my funeral yet. I haven't. Tony collapsed. Originally, Tony was ready to transfer Stark Industries to Pepper, and then he died in the endless gunfire. But he didn't expect that with the arrival of Marfa, he actually learned that his palladium poisoning could be solved. For Tony, nothing could be more gratifying than this. So, there was a hearty battle last night. But in the blink of an eye, he died like this. Looking at his corpse, Tony Stark had mixed feelings for a while. He clearly promised Ethan to cherish his life. He clearly vowed to make his life more valuable. Tony cried. Even when he was in the cave, he had never shed a tear after being tortured in every way. However, now he was crying in the form of a soul. Regret. Regret that he failed to fulfill his promise to Ethan, regretted failing Pepper Potts, and regretted failing to bring Stark Industries, which Howard had entrusted to him, to the top. It was this woman, this hateful bald woman, she actually killed me. For a moment, Tony's eyes were bloodshot, and he looked at the Ancient One not far away fiercely. But soon, he was relieved. The person was dead, so what could he do even if he wanted revenge? Oh? Mr. Stark, are you thinking about something bad? Looking at Tony's soul, the Ancient One smiled playfully. You can see me. Tony was shocked. Can humans see souls after death? Then why hadn't he seen that damn father come to see him? You are a person who sees the world from a whole. You have spent your whole life trying to make this whole bigger so that you can be more knowledgeable. You who are favored by wisdom should not be so narrow-minded, so I am here to let you see a wider world. Ancient One said calmly. But Tony Stark couldn't remain calm. This woman not only killed him, but also boasted in front of him, saying that he was narrow-minded. What a joke. As a top billionaire and a world-renowned scientist, Tony Stark could never tolerate someone saying that he was narrow-minded, not to mention that she was his enemy. Thinking of this, Tony immediately controlled his soul body, raised his fist and rushed towards Ancient One. There was no expected feeling of hitting flesh. Tony's fist went straight through Ancient One. That's right. I'm dead. Tony murmured. I don't want to see a wider world, and I don't want to know who you are. Now, immediately, get out of my house. Tony roared. You are not dead, I just want you to see more. After saying that, the Ancient One waved his hand, and Tony's soul returned to his body. Then the Ancient One stretched out his hand and Tony floated up from the ground, and the Ancient One pressed his hand on his forehead. In an instant, Tony felt dizzy, and then he felt that his consciousness flew out of the Earth, out of the solar system, and flew to the depths of the universe. The gorgeous galaxy, the mysterious black hole, everything was something he had never seen before. Just as Tony was intoxicated by the beautiful scenery in front of him, there was another dizziness, and Tony's consciousness came to the gap between the multiverse this time. Countless information that was difficult to explain with science exploded in Tony's mind at this moment. The next second, he left a multiverse. This time it was the quantum universe. Then it was hell. Then it was the dark dimension. When Tony came to his senses, he found that he was still floating in the air, still in the Seaview Villa. However, in that moment just now, he had experienced too much and seen too much, so much that Tony couldn't digest it for a while. You used to think you knew how the world works, but now, do you still think that the material universe is everything? What is true? What secrets are hidden behind what you know? At the end of reality, spirit will be connected with matter, and thought will shape reality. This universe is just one of the infinite universes. The world is infinite, some are beautiful and full of vitality, and some are evil and full of killing. Who are you? In this multiverse, Mr. Stark. Ancient One said slowly. I am Magical Iron Man. Tony Stark's eyes were shining. Ancient One's mouth corners slightly raised, obviously very satisfied with Tony's performance. If it were someone else, it might take some effort. But Tony is different. He is a person who is favored by wisdom. Even in Marvel Comics, there is a setting that Tony is the incarnation of the seventh Infinity Stone, the Wisdom Stone. Of course, that is just a comic, and it is different from the movie universe, but it is enough to prove Tony's desire for knowledge. Curiosity is something that humans are born with. It is precisely because of the strong desire for knowledge that humans will continue to explore and make progress. As a top scientist, Tony Stark's thirst for knowledge is obviously stronger than that of ordinary people. In fact, Tony already believed in the existence of the spiritual world and magic. This is not only because of the world that the Ancient One just showed him, but also because of the aura that the Ancient One inadvertently exuded, the aura that makes people want to worship. Now that he is alive, Marfa will completely heal himself with Stephen Strange. So if he can learn magic again, integrate magic and technology, and connect the material world with the spiritual world, doesn't that mean that he will master more powerful power? Doesn't that mean that he can do more for the peace of this world? Tony's heart was moved. Please accept me as your apprentice. I want to learn from you and learn the truth of the universe. As Tony's voice came out, the Ancient One took a step back and completely disappeared in the portal. She just left like that? Who is she? Where does she live? Jarvis. It has become Tony's habit to ask Jarvis when he doesn't know what to do. Sir, I'm at your service anytime. Who was that person just now? Check, I want to know everything about her. Tony said anxiously. That person just now? Sir, I don't understand what you are talking about. You were the only one here just now. Jarvis said truthfully. Only me. Tony frowned, instinctively disbelieving, but he knew that Jarvis would never lie to him. Wait, that person came to find Marfa, which means she knew Marfa. Jarvis, where's Marfa? Sir, Mr. Maximov just disappeared after passing through a spark circle. According to satellite positioning, he is now in New York. Chapter 90, Magical Poisoning Technique. Brooklyn, New York. Marfa flew back home in a hurry through the portal. Originally, according to Marfa's thinking, the Ancient One came to inform him, so Agatha and his family must have had a fight. But the fact is that everything is fine. Today is the weekend, and Django happened to take a day off. At this time, the whole family is at home, happily making pies. There is no sign of a crisis. What's going on? Could it be that the Ancient One lied to me? No. It's impossible. As the supreme leader of Kamartaj, the Ancient One must have a lot of things to deal with on a daily basis. There is no reason to make fun of himself. Then the only explanation is that Agatha has come to New York and was discovered by the Ancient One. Marfa thought to himself. But why didn't she do it? I was not here just now, it should be the best time for her to do it. Countless guesses came to his mind at once, and they were rejected by Marfa one by one. Mom, I can't do it anymore. My stomach is a little uncomfortable. Pietro said, holding his stomach. Obviously, he was constipated again. Seeing his distorted face, he must be feeling uncomfortable. Smelly boy, let me tell you to eat more vegetables, ha ha ha. Django teased. Natalia took out the medicine box, opened a suppository and gave it to Pietro. Use this first, but you really have to listen to your father. You can't do this often. Pietro took the suppository handed over by Natalia and rushed into the bathroom. Now in the room, Marfa, who used invisibility, looked at this scene and smiled from the heart. Isn't this the family and affection that I have always longed for? A father with a hard mouth and a soft heart, a gentle and kind mother, a rebellious and funny brother, and a sister with ups and downs. The regrets of the last life must not be repeated in this life. I will protect this family. Marfa made up his mind secretly, and then he showed a resolute expression. Hey, wait, suppository. Marfa's eyes flashed as if he thought of something. Now the poisoning skill has reached level 3, meeting the prerequisites for upgrading and transformation. And in Marfa's expectation, The best transformation direction is undoubtedly to poison without casting materials. If gray powder and yellow powder are added to the yin-yang fish, Marfa is not sure, but it is likely to achieve this effect. Of course, the possibility of strengthening the poisoning effect is not ruled out. But in this way, the poisoning skill cannot escape the scope of the original setting of the skill. But what if the strongest biological toxin known on Earth is added? For example, botulinum toxin? You must know that 0.1 nanogram of botulinum toxin has reached the standard of causing death. During World War II, there were devils in China who used botulinum toxin as a research topic and conducted inhumane human experiments in an attempt to create biological weapons of mass destruction. However, they underestimated botulinum toxin after all. Facts have proved that no one who tried to get involved in botulinum toxin weapons had a good end. Although now, after being diluted countless times, botulinum toxin has entered many powerful beauty salons and has become a permanent beauty product. But it must be said that in terms of toxicity alone, botulinum toxin is definitely at the top of the pyramid. But as mentioned before, no one who dares to touch botulinum toxin weapons has a good end, and the unexpectedness is too uncontrollable. What's more, different life forms will react differently to poisons. Marfa has not forgotten that one day in the future, alien life will visit the Earth. Can botulinum toxin kill Thanos? Can it kill powerful beings like Thor? All this is still unknown. And if it can't kill the opponent directly, but just reduce the target's blood, the green poison can do it, so it's meaningless. But enema is different. As a glycerin preparation, it allows more water to penetrate into the intestinal cavity, soften the stool, stimulate the intestinal wall, and reflexively cause defecation. Anyone who uses enema, whether it is human, animal, or even alien or god, will definitely have a huge bowel movement unless he has no excretion function. Since you can't catch dung worms to disgust your opponent at present, why not let the target disgust himself directly? More importantly, if you poop too much, you will easily collapse, your legs will become weak, your limbs will tremble, and your whole body will feel weak. Isn't this equivalent to reducing the opponent's attributes in an all-round way? But the problem is that the yin-yang fish can enhance its skills through two different materials. So if one uses enema, what should the other one use? Croton? This idea floated through Marfa's mind, but he quickly rejected it. I'm afraid that the superposition effect of things with the same effect may not be very good. Enema should be enough. HU. At this moment, Wanda, who was fiddling with the pie seasoning, sneezed. Mom, do you really have to add onions and chili powder? I don't like this stuff. Wanda complained. Obviously, onions stimulate the tear glands and chili powder stimulates the nasal cavity. For Wanda, this is really difficult for her. Bear with it, I'll make you another one without onions and chili powder later. Pietro and Marfa both like this taste very much. Natalia comforted her. Oh, that's it, spicy powder. Wanda's words reminded Marfa that if spicy powder and enema were combined. HU. Puff. Dot. HU. Puff. Dot. Marfa's mouth twitched slightly, and there was a picture in his mind. With such a magical skill, what if Agatha came? I'm afraid that except for the little tree man Grodd and Dormammu, few people in the entire Marvel can withstand this double blow from the physical and mental level. Ancient One can't do it either. Marfa did it as soon as she thought of it. She never had the habit of procrastination. She flew out of the window quietly while no one was paying attention. But at the moment she moved, the invisibility effect on Marfa was also forcibly lifted. The invisibility in the legend is not the perfect invisibility in the impression. It can only play the role of concealing the body and breath. Once it encounters an infrared thermal sensor or an ultrasonic positioning device, the invisibility effect will be useless. The most important thing is that if you don't have the invisibility ring, you can't move in the invisible state, otherwise the invisibility effect will disappear immediately. The duration of invisibility is related to the skill level and the level of Taoist attributes. If you want to maintain the invisible state without time limit and action limit, you must use the invisibility ring. Invisibility ring, durability. 7/7, required level. 12. Exclusive drop of the Dragon God Inzuma Cult Master. Although this equipment seems to have no attributes and the level requirement is low, as long as you wear it, whether it is a Taoist priest, a warrior or a magician, you will directly enter the invisible state. Unless you take off the ring, no matter how you run, the state will never be lifted. In comparison, The Taoist's invisibility is not good enough. Soon, Marfa bought a bag of fresh spicy powder at a convenience store near his home, and then went to the pharmacy and bought a Jeshuing brand enema. Open the skill panel of the poisoning technique and put the two into the fish eyes of the yin-yang fish respectively. In an instant, the hazy light lit up again, and the yin-yang fish array began to rotate at high speed. Soon, yin and yang merged, and a new force gushed out from the chaos. Ling. Congratulations to the host for successfully advancing the skill, poisoning. The current level is the ultimate state and cannot be advanced again. There is no description of this skill in the current version. Please explore it by yourself. It's done. Hearing the familiar system prompt in his ear, Marfa couldn't help but feel happy, and immediately thought of finding something to try. Coincidentally, at this moment, he saw a strong man leading a golden retriever passing by him, but before Marfa could react, the golden retriever raised its legs and released water on a street lamp post. Marfa's eyes lit up immediately, and he decided it was you. Poisoning. Chapter 91. The symbiote arrives. H.U. Puff. As expected, as Marfa used the poisoning technique, the golden retriever that the strong man was holding immediately began to perform. His face was distorted and his teeth were bared. Then, with a sneeze, a piece of fresh dog shit immediately stuck to the trouser leg of the strong man. Oh, shit. The strong man cursed loudly, obviously very dissatisfied with his beloved dog pooping on him. However, things did not end like this. H.U. Puff. Another sneeze, followed by another piece of dog shit bursting out of the golden retriever's chrysanthemum. This time the man was well prepared, and he dodged the shooting of dog shit with a flash. Then, H.U. Puff. Obviously, the golden retriever had almost finished pooping at this time, and there was nothing left in his stomach, so he had a gorgeous fart. In an instant, the shit foam was splashing everywhere, and it was comparable to the dung beetles that Marfa had seen before. The sturdy man never thought that the golden retriever would be able to attack in a series, and he was immediately hit. Fuck. The man was furious and kicked the golden retriever in the stomach. This was a good thing. The golden retriever had already been poisoned by Marfa, and his backyard was very tight at this time. How could he hold it back after being kicked in the stomach? Ola Eula. It immediately burst out, but this time it was obviously thinner than before. My god. H.U. Puff. The sturdy man's face turned pale, and an indescribable smell continued to emanate from his pants and rushed straight to his head. Originally, this golden retriever was raised by his girlfriend. Not only did he urinate and defecate anywhere, but he also had a smell on his body. The sturdy man didn't like this little guy very much. However, in order to please his girlfriend, the sturdy man insisted on taking the dog for a walk every day, just as a way of exercising himself. But he never expected that this dead dog would be so excessive today and even take advantage of him. Suddenly, the strong man even wanted to kill it. Fortunately, he tried his best to restrain his impulse. He grabbed the dog leash and walked in the direction he came from, obviously intending to go home. H.U. Puff. Walking, sneezing, and pulling all the way up and down at the same time, it can be said that the rate of turning heads is very high. Marfa, who took in this scene, twitched his eyes, and did not dare to say anything more. He immediately found an alley and went in. He was afraid that others would discover his bad taste. Well, overall, the effect is unexpectedly good. Sneezing can not only distract the target's attention, but also pull exhaustion can comprehensively reduce the opponent's physical attributes. It can be said to be a magical skill. The most important thing is that this skill can not only weaken the opponent, but also has an excellent effect in insulting. Isn't Pietro constipated recently? As a younger brother, how can I not do something for him? Marfa thought to himself. Marfa was still thinking about how to help her brother with his bowel movement, while Agatha was busy in the streets. That's right, she was busy. In view of the failure in the previous battle, Agatha was fully prepared for this trip. The most reassuring thing for Agatha was the Forbidden Magic Array. The Forbidden Magic Array is an ancient array recorded in the Dark God Book. The entire array is composed of 4 runes. As long as you stand in the array, no one except the caster can use magic. This is Agatha's confidence. No matter how strong Natalia is, in Agatha's view, as long as the Forbidden Magic Array is set up in advance, let alone Natalia, even if there are 10 more, she will just let them be slaughtered. As for Marfa, Agatha never took it seriously. Although she suffered a great loss from Marfa before, It was just a moment of carelessness in the final analysis. After all, Agatha had seen the fight between Marfa and Ebony. How could a noob who used despicable means to kill a cat be his opponent? At most, he would just have to be more careful, and there was no need to regard him as an opponent. 1, 2, 3, 64. Agatha connected 16 groups of runes in a group of 4 runes. Not only did it include the forbidden magic circle, but she also relied on Agatha's knowledge of magic to superimpose a space confinement circle on the forbidden magic circle. As long as the circle was activated, it would form an isolation cover within a radius of 2 kilometers with the Maximov family as the center, completely trapping all the Maximov family members in it. This is called catching a turtle in a jar. In the mirror space of Brooklyn, Guy looked at Agatha, who was busy finishing the work, and shook his head. How could she not understand what these runes carved by Agatha represented after living a long time? He's just digging his own grave. Anyway, since we've already helped him, let's help him a little more, so that if something really happens, the little guy won't mess around again. Having said that, Guy immediately drew a teleportation magic spark on his chest. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of a group of runes of the forbidden magic circle set up by Agatha. He drew a dragon with his left hand and a rainbow with his right hand, and then put his hands together. Suddenly, the shadow of a wild wolf emerged from his palm. As Guy pressed his hands lightly, the shadow of the wild wolf immediately turned into stars and merged into the runes carved by Agatha. After doing all this, Guy's figure also drilled into the teleportation portal again, which seemed to mean that he had done his job and left without any fame. Malaysia, Borneo Deep Forest Reserve. After breaking through the atmosphere, a spaceship fell on an open space with blazing flames. For a moment, smoke and dust rose up, and flames steamed, turning the originally vibrant nature reserve into a sea of fire. Fortunately, Malaysia is located in the tropics, with a tropical rainforest climate and heavy humidity. Therefore, the flames gradually died out after spreading for several kilometers, and did not cause too much ecological damage. Soon, the local government of Malaysia received compensation from the Life Fund Group. There is no doubt that this spacecraft is the Life 1 spacecraft previously launched into space by the Life Fund Group. Because the hull was damaged for various reasons before entering the atmosphere, the astronauts sent a distress signal to the Life Fund headquarters in California in advance. However, Carlton Drake, CEO of the Life Fund, turned a blind eye to the astronaut Jameson's call for help and forcibly remotely controlled Life 1 to land. It's just a few astronauts, so if they die, they die, although it's quite troublesome to cultivate them. What really concerned Carlton was the life sample collected by Life 1 on a comet. Otherwise, Carlton would not have been responsible for the destruction of the nature reserve and contacted the Malaysian government to pay compensation. It must be said that the power of money is indeed huge. After receiving the huge compensation from the Life Fund, the Malaysian government immediately sent a medical team, a fire brigade, a rescue team, to cooperate with the head of the Malaysian branch of the Life Fund to rescue and recover everything on the spacecraft. In just half an hour, the wreckage of the Life 1 spacecraft was found. Mr. Drake, only 3 samples were found, and 1 disappeared because the tank was broken. The person in charge said to Carlton over the phone, "You should take a special plane now and personally deliver the remaining 3 samples to the headquarters." Carlton frowned slightly and said after thinking for a moment, "What about the astronauts? Except for Jameson, everyone else is dead." The person in charge asked, "Just find a local isolation hospital to send him there, try to save him first, and forget it if it doesn't work. As the head of the regional branch, you must learn to distinguish between the primary and the secondary. Now the 3 samples are the top priority." Carlton scolded. "Okay, Mr. Drake, I'll arrange it right away. I'll make sure to deliver the sample to you safely in the shortest possible time." Chapter 92 Django, I Also Know Magic. Brooklyn, New York. Everything was ready, and Agatha couldn't wait to start the chaos magic plundering operation. There was no fancy cover-up. Agatha, like last time, threw a huge magic bullet at the Maximov family's small apartment. Gaia energy cannon. Ahem, no, it should be a dark dead spirit ball. A purple-black magic bullet with a diameter of about 10 meters fell from the sky like a meteorite. Wherever the magic bullet passed, everything turned into dust. Whether it was organic or inorganic, at this moment, it was like paper and could not withstand a single blow. However, when the magic bullet hit the Maximov family's house, A scarlet light blocked the purple-black magic bullet. Then, the scarlet light suddenly shrank, like a sharp arrow, piercing through the middle of the magic bullet. In just a moment, the magic bullet that was so powerful just now was eliminated. "Is it you?" Natalia, whose hands were still covered with flour, immediately recognized Agatha Harkness floating in the air. Natalia would never forget that it was this woman in front of her who made her family like stray dogs, leaving their hometown in a hurry without time to set up a family business. It was also this woman in front of her who almost killed her and her own baby son before. If she had let go before, Natalia would have immediately flown into the sky without saying a word and fought with Agatha again. But now, looking at Wanda, who was constantly panting, Natalia was shrouded in a sense of powerlessness for a while. Was she wrong? It turned out that having power was not all bad. At least in this situation, she could stand up and fight for a glimmer of life for this family. Natalia thought so in her heart. But unlike Natalia, Wanda was confused at this time. Who is this woman in front of her? Why did she attack inexplicably? Why does she have magic like herself? The most important thing is that when Wanda was fighting with Agatha just now, she felt an extremely familiar feeling from the other party's magic. This feeling is just like that of Pietro and Marfa, which makes her feel extremely close. Could it be that she is her parents' illegitimate daughter? Wanda, who has watched too many black and white sitcoms, has begun to make up her mind. What is the accidental pregnancy caused by a mistake when she was young? What is the child abandoned because she can't afford it? What is the child suffering a lot to find relatives? What is the parents who have reborn and want revenge? With all kinds of doubts, Wanda looked at Natalia beside her. "Wanda, you should go with Pietro, the farther the better. This is an evil witch. Her purpose is to rob chaos magic. We fled Sokovia before because of her." Natalia pulled Pietro's hand and shouted at Wanda. "Pietro, Greek letter sigma, Cyrillic letter dec. Didn't you say before that I got into trouble at school and my classmate's hometown blew up my house?" Pietro was surprised. He blamed himself for this for a long time. "Wanda. Natalia. Pietro, you run fast, take your sister away quickly. As a brother, you have to protect your sister. Leave this to me and your mother." Django spoke at the right time, breaking the weird atmosphere. Immediately, Django took out a specimen of puffer fish from a brocade box placed on the wall. He stared at Agatha with a serious look. "I have been preparing for this day for a long time. The boss said that only magic can defeat magic. Today I will let you see my air magic." After that, Django held the puffer fish specimen and muttered silently. "Demons and ghosts, leave quickly. Demons and ghosts, leave quickly." In an instant, emerald green magic energy enveloped Django. This scene really scared Natalia. "I didn't expect that your thick-browed and big-eyed Django could actually do magic." As Django kept repeating the spell, the emerald green light on Django became more and more dazzling. "Go!" With a roar from Django, the emerald green energy of air magic immediately turned into arrows and shot towards Agatha's position. "Interesting, it's the long-lost air magic." Agatha smiled and watched Django's performance with a playful look. She let the emerald green arrows attack her. "Did your teacher tell you? Air magic requires a lot of materials for casting, and only when the caster remains a virgin can it exert its strongest power. You." As soon as Agatha finished speaking, she heard a few bangs. After the air magic arrows hit the protective shield on Agatha's body, they only stirred up layers of waves and were completely eliminated. Nothing more. Unlike the white magic of Camartage with the help of the power of the gods, and the black magic that Agatha's witch lineage has practiced for a long time, air magic is unique. Not only does it require the user's own righteousness, but the user's virginity and the materials used to cast the spell will directly affect the strength of the air magic. Therefore, according to ancient books, most of those who practiced air magic were monks. A man like Django, who already has 3 children, is obviously destined to not be able to reach the pinnacle of air magic. The reason why Agatha did not rush to take action was to test Django's strength, just as a pre-dinner entertainment. Dad can do magic? Mom can do magic too? Wanda and Marfa can do magic too? Damn, I wonder if I am a biological child. Pietro's 3 views were refreshed again. In his opinion, it seemed that he was the only one in the Maximoff family who could not do magic. What a sad story this is. Django on the other side was also not calm at this time. This is different from the script he expected. Shouldn't the crisis come, and then he will cast the magic that he has practiced for months, kill all around, and turn the tide with one person? How could he not even break the opponent's defense? Go away, demons and ghosts, go away. Django, who didn't believe in evil, immediately chanted this spell again. As he danced with his hands, the specimen of pufferfish immediately flashed the shadow of a staff. When the magic power was condensed to the peak again. Flower fairy cannon. Ahem, no, it's a magic bullet. The emerald green air magic was like a dazzling star, carrying gusts of wind, sweeping towards Agatha. That's it? I'm tired of it. After saying that, Agatha stretched out her right hand, and the purple-black magic power immediately turned into a baseball bat, and then, bang! There was nothing else. After Django's magic bullet met Agatha's baseball bat, it was smashed into the sky like a baseball. Beautiful. Home run. Pietro shouted. He didn't notice Django's twitching mouth and dead fish eyes beside him. It was as if she was saying, hold on, this is your own child, you can't kill him, hold on, you must hold on. Ignoring the funny father and son duo, Agatha had already focused her attention on Wanda. Although it was unclear why the chaos magic was transferred to Wanda. But at least, there was one thing that made Agatha very happy. That is, chaos magic can indeed be transferred or plundered. The previous time, Agatha absorbed a lot of chaos magic from Natalia, but no matter how Agatha refined it, this part of magic only played a role in further strengthening her own foundation. It did not transform Agatha's magic attribute into chaos magic. Although they are both magic, there is no doubt that the chaos magic of the Scarlet Witch and the black magic of Agatha are completely two levels of things. For this reason, Agatha guessed that she only absorbed Natalia's chaos magic at that time, and did not absorb that part of the original power. As for whether the original power can be transferred or plundered, Agatha still had some doubts in her heart. However, now there was a living example in front of her. It was like a shot of adrenaline for Agatha, making her more eager for chaos magic. Chapter 93, The Final Battle with Agatha, Part 1. I didn't expect you would pass on chaos magic to your daughter. Oh, ha ha ha. Agatha, as usual, put one hand on her waist, and her witch-like laughter spread throughout the community. Psycho. Such an ugly laugh. Downstairs of the Maximov family, the window was suddenly opened. A middle-aged woman with half-haired hair, holding a cigarette and applying a facial mask, shouted impatiently to the window. The previous magic battles were conducted silently, so until just now, the whole community did not know that their lives were hanging in the air. After a glance, she did not find anyone downstairs, and subconsciously looked up at the sky. She saw a woman in a black and purple magic robe, with one hand on her waist and the other hand half covering her lips, quietly floating in the air. Pa! The woman was frightened by the scene in front of her, and even the cigarette in her mouth fell down. The next second, she saw Agatha waving her hands repeatedly. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, and blades of wind were hidden in it, pouring down in all directions. The woman suddenly felt something was wrong and slammed the window shut, ran back to the room, and covered herself with a quilt. I'm dreaming, this is not real, I'm dreaming, this is not real. The wind blade scraped against the wall, layers of stone chips kept falling, and even the windows were shattered into glass shards in an instant. How could the woman be calm as if nothing had happened? Honey, what's going on outside? The bearded man came out of the bathroom and saw the mess in the bedroom, and asked immediately. There's a woman flying in the sky. The woman said tremblingly. In an instant, the man's face darkened. Is it a palm technique that fell from the sky? Let's get back to the point. At this time, Wanda was trying her best to support the magic energy shield to protect her family, so she didn't care about anything else. After all, she had just mastered chaos magic not long ago, and Wanda was not like Pietro, who deliberately trained their abilities. Therefore, as time passed, the expression on Wanda's face became more and more solemn. Damn it, I should have practiced my ability more. Wanda is an obedient child. Natalia told her not to show her uniqueness in front of others. Therefore, Wanda has been hiding it well. If Pietro had not been in a life-threatening situation before, Wanda would not have been forced to help. But now, she regretted it. Seeing that his sister was working hard to protect her family, but he was hiding behind her, Pietro couldn't help but clench his fists and looked at Agatha in the sky with resentment. Damn it, if I can't fly, I would have rushed over to tear her limbs off and tied a bow. Pietro thought unwillingly. No, if this goes on, Wanda won't last long. We must do something. Looking around, Pietro's eyes soon fell on the knife and fork on the dining table. Yes, this thing. His ability is speed, so as long as he uses his ability to blast his arms and quickly throw the knife and fork outward, the power should be no less than the arrow shot from the compound bow. Thinking of this, Pietro immediately grabbed the knife and fork on the table and dodged outside Wanda's protective shield. With his ghostly speed, Pietro was able to easily shuttle through the wind blades without injury. Then, a blue phantom was seen constantly moving back and forth around Wanda's scarlet magic protective shield. Obviously, Pietro was adapting to the movement in the small space and looking for an opportunity to attack Agatha. Oh? I didn't expect there was another interesting little guy. Agatha looked at the blue phantom with a smirk. But it's almost over, it's time to activate the forbidden magic circle and end this boring game quickly. Agatha thought so, and immediately began to recite the magic circle activation spell. Damoxaramo, Damoxaramo. As Agatha chanted, a huge energy shield shaped like an eggshell immediately appeared in the northern part of Brooklyn. The purple-black light directly isolated the nearby area of 2 kilometers from the outside world. At the same time, Wanda's chaos magic also lost its effect, and the protective shield completely disappeared. At the critical moment, swish, swish, swish. 3 knives and forks shot out from Pietro's hands and flew straight to Agatha's face. Everything happened so quickly that even Agatha didn't have time to react. Fortunately, every failure is a lesson. Since she didn't find Marfa, Agatha has been on guard against a child who once tricked her to launch a surprise attack on her. Because of this, Agatha immediately covered her body with an invisible magic energy shield. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by 3 crisp collisions, the 3 knives and forks also fell. Come again. Seeing that his attack didn't work, Pietro immediately threw out 3 more knives and forks. The 3 knives and forks were in a triangular shape, flying towards Agatha at a speed that the naked eye could not catch. Seeing that his daughter's magic had failed, Django immediately stepped forward and continued to play with a pufferfish specimen in his hand. Go away, monsters, go away. But unlike before, there was no magical energy to wrap him up this time. Obviously, both the air magic and the chaos magic were suppressed by the forbidden magic circle that Agatha had arranged in advance. The speed of fire was still impossible to catch with the naked eye. But Agatha was unmoved by this. What a joke, I am a witch who has lived for hundreds of years. If I can be dealt with by a few knives and forks, don't I have any face? Thinking of this in her heart, Agatha's eyes condensed, and a huge magic power surged towards the floor where Pietro was. In an instant, Pietro felt as if he had come to the sea, and every move he made was met with great resistance. His movements also became much slower at this moment. Follow me in the future, at least you can replace my lovely ebony. After that, a ring of purple-black magic floated out from Agatha's hand and slowly flew towards Pietro. Just as the magic ring was about to be put on Pietro's head, a lavender halo suddenly blocked the front of the magic ring. Then the magic ring disappeared silently in front of Agatha's eyes. What is this? Agatha frowned slightly and scanned the surroundings, but did not find anything unusual. Impossible, I have clearly activated the forbidden magic circle, how could someone else cast magic here? Agatha was a little unbelievable. The effect of the forbidden magic circle can be seen from the fact that Django and Wanda are currently unable to cast spells. But how to explain the scene just now? Thinking of this, Agatha threw out another magic energy ring, trying to control Pietro again. However, the same scene happened again. Such familiar energy fluctuations. Wanda thought to herself. Pietro was very close to her. Although Wanda could no longer use her abilities at this time, it did not hinder her perception of everything around her. The energy fluctuations presented on the lavender halo just now were 30% similar to the chaos magic that Wanda herself used. Could it be? As if she had thought of something, Wanda couldn't help but raise her lips slightly, revealing a relieved smile. She didn't forget that her 3 siblings were all affected by the chaos energy in front of Natalia. If there was anyone else in the world who could have a power similar to the chaos energy besides herself, it would obviously be Pietro and Marfa. Pietro, throw the knife and fork again. Wanda shouted to Pietro on the side. But Pietro was like being stuck in a quagmire at this moment. Every move he made was extremely strenuous. If he threw the knife and fork again, at most, the power would be slightly greater than that of an ordinary person. Just ask, how could he do what he couldn't do before with all his strength? However, since Wanda said so, relying on his trust in his sister, Pietro still threw the last 3 knives and forks. An ant trying to shake a tree. Agatha glanced at Pietro, who was struggling to death with disdain. She immediately threw a magic bullet at the flying knife and fork. Just as Pietro thought, without the speed advantage, the knife and fork he threw was really not that fast. Just the next second. Boom. Chapter 94, The Final Battle with Agatha, Part 2. Agatha rushed forward and almost fell from the air. What happened? Why did her magic bullet hide her? Just now, when Agatha's magic bullet was about to knock down the knife and fork thrown by Pietro, a lavender halo appeared between the two. Then the magic bullet disappeared and appeared behind Agatha. There is no doubt that Agatha, who was caught off guard, immediately swallowed her own magic bullet. Fortunately, Agatha originally just wanted to knock down the knife and fork casually, so the energy contained in this magic bullet was not much. However, after all, it was Agatha's own energy, and it was the same source as the magic shield attached to her body. Therefore, although the shield barely blocked the magic bullet, it also greatly reduced the strength of the magic shield. At this time, Agatha's body was flickering, and it was obvious that the shield was approaching its limit. But at this moment, the knife and fork thrown by Pietro finally flew over. Bang! Puff! After resisting 2 forks in a row, the last knife actually penetrated a protective shield and stabbed into Agatha's bun. Ah! Agatha couldn't help but scream in pain. Although Pietro's speed was greatly reduced, the knife had little power left after breaking through the protective shield. But it was a bun after all, and a sea-sized meat bun. Is it okay to be stabbed by a knife? The silicone didn't show? It's unscientific. Marfa, who had just returned from the pharmacy and hid in the dark with invisibility, pouted, obviously dissatisfied with Agatha's real material. But he didn't think about it. Would a witch need silicone? Whether it's big or small, isn't it just a matter of magic? Stabilizing her body, Agatha took out a bottle of black ointment from her waist and applied it to the wound, and then rushed towards Wanda. The enemy is in the dark while I am in the light. Although Agatha is not worried about being killed by the enemy, she does not want the fat meat in her mouth to slip away. Humph. Still want to make trouble. Seeing Agatha's actions, Marfa immediately took out an amulet and threw it out. Soulfire Talisman. After passing through a lavender halo, the amulet disappeared directly. When it appeared again, it was already in front of Agatha. Boom. The explosion sounded, and the sound wave spread out like a tide. Although Agatha's mouth was bleeding at this time, she was smiling and looked like she had won. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 magic bullets shot out from Agatha's hands. The direction they flew to was exactly where Marfa was standing now. Fuck. I was discovered. Marfa made a quick decision and immediately activated his telekinesis to prop up a space node in front of him as large as possible. And the other end of the node was undoubtedly behind Agatha. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The magic missiles flew in one after another and flew straight into the lavender halo. They came behind Agatha again. But Agatha seemed to have expected this long ago. She immediately used all her magic to quickly dodge the attack of the magic bullet. Just the next second, Marfa widened her eyes and showed an extremely horrified look. Because at this time, after Agatha dodged the 3 magic bullets, they were shot in the direction where Wanda and others were. What a cunning old bitch. At this time, Marfa's invisibility time was up, and he didn't care about using the invisibility again. Marfa immediately controlled the telekinesis and turned it into 3 huge tentacles to shoot at the magic bullet. Boom boom boom. With the sound of the explosion, Marfa breathed a sigh of relief. It's you. Looking at Marfa's figure below, Agatha couldn't help but reveal an expression that I had guessed it a long time ago. I didn't expect you to still not give up. We've all gone to hide in America, but you've come all the way here. Do you think you're good again? Or do you want to taste the power of my poison powder? Since he was discovered, Marfa simply stopped hiding and flew up with telekinesis, confronting Agatha in midair. Oh. Hey. This is definitely the funniest joke I've ever heard. The little brat who was scared by me back then actually dares to challenge me head-on. What gave you the confidence? Although I don't know how you cast magic in the Forbidden Magic Circle, it doesn't matter anymore. Today I'll send you down to apologize to my lovely Ebony. As he spoke, Agatha's eyes widened, and veins popped up all over her body, obviously ready to turn on the full power state. HMPH. Just pretending. With the ability of space transfer, I am invincible against a mage. Just as Marfa thought, the ability of space transfer can be said to be a nearly unsolvable bug. Any spell skill thrown at it can be transferred to another place by Marfa, or even returned by the original route. It is not an exaggeration to call it a magical version of the stars. However, Marfa forgot one thing. That is the casting and reading bar. Unlike controlling telekinetic tentacles, using mental power to stimulate space ability has a charging time of about 1 second. If you want to further expand the space gate, this time will continue to increase. This problem is not obvious in the legendary world. After all, the monsters in the legendary game rarely have such a fast speed that Marfa can't charge. But in the real world, with Marfa's current control of space ability, it is impossible to transfer all attacks with this move. At least Marfa can't block the moves of those with too large coverage and speed type abilities. In other words, with Marfa's current ability, in the real world, the ability of space transfer is more suitable for Marfa's previous surprise attack or to cooperate with summoned beasts to play auxiliary. If you have to face the enemy's swift attack while charging, you will be a little bit inadequate. Obviously, Agatha is a smart person who has lived for hundreds of years. Although it is impossible to be sure, seeing Marfa's previous attempt to transfer 3 magic bullets in a row, she can vaguely guess something. Because there is a certain time difference between the magic bullet being fired and the bullet being shot in front of Marfa, the previous attack may have enough time to charge, but what if it is an all-round and intensive attack without dead-ends? Agatha doesn't mind trying it. After all, there is no loss even if she guesses wrong. As for Marfa, it is impossible for her to watch the other party use a big move. Agatha wants to enlarge now, so why doesn't she need to charge? The best way to deal with a mage is undoubtedly to interrupt the casting. Of course, the mage mentioned here does not include melee mages like Camartage. Poisoning. Poisoning. Red poison. Poisoning. Green poison. 3 skills were thrown out in succession, and the misty light immediately enveloped Agatha. For a moment, it was red first, followed by green. Agatha turned into a little green man from head to toe. However, it was not as Marfa thought. Agatha screamed in pain. Soon, Marfa found the clue. It turned out that Agatha had completed the protective shield that was close to her body. Because of this, all the poison powder was blocked outside by the protective shield and could not invade Agatha's body at all. Although the red poison had weakened the strength of the protective shield at this time, and the green poison was constantly corroding it. But it was too late. A huge net covering the sky and the earth had already enveloped Marfa. Die? With Agatha's shout, dense magic arrows poured down on Marfa like rain. Marfa was about to be hit. A blue figure flew over, hugged Marfa's waist, and quickly fell to the ground. It turned out that just now, in order to perform a big move and maintain the protective shield on her body, Agatha had no intention of taking care of Pietro's imprisonment. Because of this, Pietro, who broke free, rushed to Marfa's position at the first time. Bang! With Pietro's rescue, the two directly smashed the window of the opposite apartment building and entered an unfamiliar room. And Pietro was cut by the broken glass in his leg tendon because he stood in front of Marfa. It's not safe here, run. Pietro pushed Marfa away and shouted. No, you. Marfa wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Pietro again. Run. Alice. Marfa sighed. Healing spell. You say you, it's not that I can't heal you, why do you have to make it like a life and death separation, what are you doing? As expected, the third level healing technique was effective immediately. In the blink of an eye, Pietro had regained his mobility. Chapter 95, The Final Battle with Agatha, Part 2. Since his injury had recovered, Pietro naturally had no scruples. He picked up Marfa and rushed outside. Although the magic arrows were overwhelming and dense, for a speed-type ability user like Pietro, it was like a snail crawling, and could not attack Pietro and Marfa, who was held by him as a princess. Soon, Agatha's big move was released and ended. The two brothers looked up at the sky with burning eyes. But Agatha's figure was gone. Then, as if they realized something, they immediately looked in the direction of Wanda and others. Natalia, Django and Wanda were controlled by Agatha at this time. Hurry, run, kid, don't worry about us. You two brothers must help each other in the future. Django shouted with a last ray of consciousness. And Natalia, due to the loss of chaos magic, her physical condition has long recovered to that of an ordinary housewife. How could she withstand the erosion of Agatha's magic? At this moment, she has already fallen into coma. Only Wanda, although unable to cast spells due to the forbidden magic circle, was protected by the chaos magic, and she still retained consciousness for a while. Asshole. Seeing his family fall into Agatha's hands, Marfa couldn't help but curse. Oh. Hey. Just relying on you two immature brats? What can you use to fight me? Agatha smiled triumphantly. Seeing this, Marfa immediately took out an amulet and clamped it on his fingertips. Oh? Do you still want to use that strange amulet? Do you dare? Don't forget that your family is here too. Do you want to kill them? Agatha looked at Marfa below with a playful look and said. Obviously, as long as Wanda is captured, this operation will be a victory. As for Marfa and Pietro, it doesn't matter. After all, if the two work together, it will be quite troublesome to capture them. But before Agatha finished being proud, Marfa actually threw the amulet directly at Agatha. How is it possible? This guy really wants to kill her family. She thought so in her heart, but when the amulet appeared next to Agatha again, it did not explode like before. Instead, it turned into star-like light and fell to the ground. Haha, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. It turns out that you are just bluffing. If you really dare to risk killing them, I might think more highly of you if you used the trick before. At this time, Agatha was already sure of victory, and immediately mocked the two people downstairs. Really? Ziobe, do it. As soon as the voice fell, a white skeleton suddenly drilled out from the ground, and then jumped high, and chopped Agatha directly with an axe. Fortunately, Agatha was protected by the magic shield and was not injured. However, the magic shield was weakened by the red poison and eroded by the green poison, and it was already at the critical point of collapse. Agatha had just used a big move, and the magic power in her body was still being sorted out, so she had not had time to repair the protective shield. So, snap! The magic shield broke. Seeing Ziobe raise his axe again, Agatha was anxious, so she grabbed Wanda and flew into the air. She also forcibly condensed a small magic bullet and threw it at Ziobe. It was just a baseball-sized magic bullet, so Ziobe was not afraid. She raised her axe high and chopped it directly when the magic bullet was about to get close. Bang! The magic bullet broke, stirring up a strong wind, blowing Ziobe and making a creaking sound. Now, seeing Ziobe successfully break Agatha's protective shield, Marfa smiled in her heart. Poisoning. As Marfa used her skills, Agatha's body suspended in the air suddenly froze. Oh no, I've been ambushed. Then Agatha felt a pain in her abdomen, and the urge to try it appeared in her back. Damn you, you think you can be defeated by such a despicable means? Gritting her teeth, Agatha managed to utter half a sentence. It must be said that a witch is a witch after all, and her willpower is far beyond Marfa's expectations. She actually lasted for 5 seconds before she sneezed for the first time. Achoo! As Agatha sneezed, her lower body immediately became like a flood that could no longer be suppressed. Puff! A foul smell immediately wafted out from Agatha's lower body. Wanda, who was tightly held by Agatha, frowned at this time, revealing an expression that was difficult to describe. Ha ha ha. How is it? Witch, how does my chrysanthemum gushing technique taste? Don't you want to know why I can use magic? It's okay to tell you, I'm a Taoist priest without emotions, a Taoist priest. Do you understand? This is called Taoism, not magic. Ha ha ha. Achoo, fuck you, you little bastard. Puff, fuck you. Achoo, you don't have martial ethics. Puff, you're the one who got you. Poisoning technique. Red poison. As Marfa cast the spell again, Agatha immediately turned into Little Red Man. Wanda, hurry up, kick her in the stomach. Marfa shouted at Wanda, who was being held by Agatha in the air. Kick her in the stomach. Wanda thought for a moment and reacted immediately. The corner of her mouth slightly raised, and she immediately kicked Agatha hard in the stomach. With a red poison reducing defense, Wanda's kick was very effective. Agatha's figure immediately began to float. Yellow liquid and semi-solids kept dripping from the black magic robe. Achoo! Puff! Agatha was going crazy. The witch's reserve and dignity disappeared at this moment. Seeing that her plan was successful, Marfa immediately took out the demon from her backpack. A lavender halo flashed, and an arm holding Wanda also fell. Marfa seized the opportunity and immediately controlled telekinesis to catch Wanda. Then, a thick stack of amulets appeared in Marfa's hands. Marfa smiled evilly. Poisoning. Poisoning. Red poison. Poisoning. Green poison. In an instant, Agatha's previous red turned green again. Fortunately, at this time, the magic power in her body had been sorted out. Without Wanda in her hand, she lost an arm, and every time she sneezed, her body would unconsciously pause. Obviously, this situation is no longer suitable for fighting again. Thinking of this, Agatha wanted to run away immediately. But if she flew away directly, how could Agatha, who was moving like a tractor, escape the pursuit of Pietro, who was holding Marfa in his arms? Thinking of this, Agatha immediately added a layer of protective shield to herself, and then threw a huge magic bullet with a radius of about 3 meters at the location of Django and Natalia. In any case, she would create some trouble for them first. Anyway, as long as she flew out 2 kilometers. With the obstruction of the space confinement array, Marfa and Pietro would not be able to catch up with her for a while. Thinking of this, Agatha immediately looked in a direction and ran away. Marfa was also shocked when he saw such a huge magic bullet, because he couldn't open such a large space door at all. Ziobe, yes, there is also Ziobe. Thinking of this, Marfa immediately gave Ziobe an order to jump down from the building holding Natalia and Django. But Marfa underestimated his little skeleton after all. At the moment when Agatha gathered the magic bullet towards Ziobe's position, Ziobe had already picked up Natalia and Django on the ground and walked towards the broken wall. By the time Marfa gave the order, Ziobe had already fallen into the air. Haha. This guy is surprisingly afraid of death. Marfa's mouth twitched slightly, but his face was full of smiles. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96: The End of the Witch. Using telekinesis to catch Ziobe, Django and Natalia, Marfa immediately asked Pietro to continue holding her to chase Agatha. Things have come to this, Marfa must not let Agatha escape again. The effect of the poison will last for a while, during which time the injured Agatha will definitely not be able to fly fast. As long as you follow the smell of shit along the way, you can always find her. At this time, Agatha has already come to the edge of the space confinement barrier. But at this time, Agatha is in complete despair. How? How is it possible? Achoo, puff, I can't open this barrier. Achoo, puff, feeling wet, sticky, and smelly, and accompanied by the corrosive pain of burning like a raging fire all over her body. Agatha felt uncomfortable, wronged, and wanted to cry. In short, she had mixed feelings. Hundreds of years, she had lived for hundreds of years, and she had never suffered such humiliation. There was even a moment when Agatha wanted to kill herself. Last time, at most she lost her beloved Ebony, but at least she got some chaos magic. But what about this time? Not only was her left arm broken, but she didn't get a single hair. The most important thing was that the heavy feeling in her underwear at this time became Agatha's lingering nightmare. Achoo. Puff. It seems that the only way to escape from here is to remove the entire forbidden magic circle. Thinking of this in her heart, Agatha immediately began to perform the cancellation spell. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Seeing that the forbidden magic circle was about to be successfully cancelled, suddenly, something strange happened. I saw Wolf Phantom rushing out of the formation and sank directly into Agatha's chest without saying a word. At the same time, the imprisonment barrier that had just separated the two places had completely disappeared. Just when Agatha was happy, Agatha suddenly felt weak all over, as if a ferocious beast was constantly devouring her magic power in her body. Not good. Seeing that she was about to fall from the sky, Agatha was immediately terrified and immediately controlled the remaining magic power to slowly descend. At the moment she successfully landed, the magic power in Agatha's body also completely disappeared. In the mirror space, Ancient One gently stroked the head of the wolf's phantom, with a slight smile on his lips, obviously very satisfied with his masterpiece. Don't look at Agatha's previous embarrassed look, it was just that she was poisoned by Marfa without a magic shield. Once the poison effect is lifted, Agatha is still a powerful witch. Although one arm was broken, the magic power in her body was not consumed too much. If she really fights Marfa again at this time, let's not talk about who wins or loses. Even if Agatha dies in the battle, it won't be a big problem for Pietro to take the blame. The reason why the Ancient One made such a layout before was precisely because of this consideration. Now, retire after success, and leave the finishing work to Marfa. Regarding the variable of Marfa, the Ancient One himself can't explain his attitude. On the one hand, the Ancient One hopes to bring a better ending to the world through the variable of Marfa. On the other hand, the Ancient One is also worried that Marfa will directly cause worse results after being too reckless. The unknown is terrifying, especially for people like the Ancient One who originally knew everything. It is for this reason that the Ancient One will warn Marfa not to do it too much, and on the other hand, when he sees that what Marfa did is good for Kamartaj and even the whole world, he is willing to help him. Let's not talk about the Ancient One for now. Agatha is really in a desperate situation at this moment. Broken arm, smelly shit, and all magic power is lost. Although the poison had expired, the pain that ate at the bones and burned the skin had disappeared, and the desire to sneeze was gone. But what was the use? The scene of falling from the sky was unfortunately seen by some passers-by. At this moment, Agatha seemed to have become a clown, surrounded by a group of people. They all covered their noses and pointed at Agatha. Agatha couldn't hear what they said, and didn't want to listen anymore. Anyway, it was definitely not good. The most important thing was that with more and more people watching, Agatha's current physical condition would definitely not be able to break through the crowd and escape. At this time, boom! With the sound of muffled thunder, a sudden rainstorm enveloped the entire New York area. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. God! Are you pitying me too? Agatha screamed at the sky like a madman. However, when she saw the passers-by around her leaving because of the sudden rain, each returning to their own homes and looking for their own mothers, she suddenly reacted. No, 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 this is God giving me a way out. The smell is gone, and the crowd has dispersed. Agatha, I'm fine again. So, what is it that makes you so happy? Why not tell us and share it? A familiar voice in her ear made Agatha's laughter stop abruptly. You know what? I sneezed a lot when I first arrived in New York. I just thought I was allergic to you, a bad boy, but I didn't expect that this was another hint from God. Hinting that I would lose because of sneezing. Haha. If I had known this would happen, I would not have done it in the first place. We have no hatred, but you have hurt my family again and again. Even if you have 1,000 unspeakable secrets, I will not let you go. After saying that, Marfa immediately took out the amulet again. However, under the continuous washing of the heavy rain, the spell on the amulet was instantly diluted. Marfa wanted to cast the Soulfire Talisman, but found that the skill failed to cast. Marfa was terrified. I didn't expect that my Soulfire Talisman would be restrained by water. For a moment, Marfa couldn't help but feel a chill on his back, and he was even more scared. Fortunately, I found it early. If it happens to rain in the future battle, or the opponent is a water-based ability user, then wouldn't my strongest killer move be directly useless? The amulets sold in grocery stores are made of uniform materials, and there is no such thing as a deluxe water-released version. In other words, if Marfa wants to completely solve this problem, she must first complete the task of the owner of the grocery store in Beach Province, get the amulet printer, and then make a water-removing amulet. You commit suicide. Marfa said with forced calmness. Of course, this does not mean that Marfa cannot kill Agatha now without the Soulfire Talisman skill, but since he has taken out the amulet, it is very strange not to use this skill. Don't forget that New York is a city under the surveillance of S.H.I.E.L.D. Skynet. Marfa does not want her weakness to be discovered by S.H.I.E.L.D. or even Hydra. Oh? Are you pitying me? Or do you want to maintain your hypocritical image and don't want to stain your hands with blood? Agatha looked at Marfa in front of her with contempt. No, I just think you stink, and I don't want to get your shit stuck on me by accident. In addition, this can be regarded as leaving you with the last dignity. Marfa threw Agatha's broken arm to her, meaning to give her a complete one. Agatha. Pietro. Disliked the other person's stink, but refused to kill him personally? The key is that he said it so righteously? Pietro secretly glanced at his brother beside him, as if he had just met him today. Agatha's expression changed again and again, but when she saw her broken arm, she finally felt relieved. Here, I'll give it to you. Maybe it will help that little girl. As soon as she finished speaking, Agatha fell to the ground and died. An empty glass bottle and a black book with a gold cover also fell beside her. Chapter 97 3 Phone Calls. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully deflecting the MCU plot. The bonus game time is 2,000 minutes, and the current remaining game time is 4,600 minutes. Ling. Congratulations to the host for successfully forcing the black magic witch Agatha Harkness to death, and the bonus experience value is 100,000 points. Ling. In order to commend the host for making the plot characters repent, the host is additionally rewarded with a special skill, the Great Liar. Please keep up the good work. The Great Liar, an active skill. When this skill is used, the target's trust in the words of the caster can be greatly improved. The cooldown time is 24 hours and the duration is 1 minute. This skill cannot be strengthened or upgraded. Listening to the heavenly reminder sound of the system, Marfa couldn't help but smile slightly. Finally, it was not in vain. But, what should I do with Agatha's body? Marfa was thinking about this, but the phone rang. Unknown call? Those bastards who only know how to pick up bargains reacted quickly. I just don't know if it's SHIELD or SHIELD this time. Who is this? This is Sitwell. Did you just cause trouble in New York again? Sitwell's familiar voice came from the other end of the phone. Didn't you see everything? Why are you asking even though you know the answer? Marfa's face darkened and she said in a deep voice. Well, you didn't show up when I was in trouble. Now that the matter is settled, you want to pick the fruits, but you come up and ask for accusations right away. What a routine. Ahem, wait a few minutes, I will immediately arrange for someone to receive the body. I will help you settle this matter by the way. You made too much noise this time, and you didn't hide your identity. Minister Peters is very dissatisfied with your reckless behavior. I'll give you a shot in advance. You have to be prepared for your identity to be revealed. There are too many witnesses this time, and it's difficult for us to conceal it for you. Sitwell hung up the phone after he finished speaking, but Marfa's heart suddenly tightened. Oh no. I forgot to change my clothes. This is really not Marfa's fault. She was on vacation at Tony's house, but suddenly she received a notice from Ancient One and rushed to New York without stopping. Then she just strengthened her skills and met Agatha. Things happened one after another, and Marfa had no time to prepare. What's more, the protagonists of this incident were the Maximov family. Even if Marfa concealed her identity, it would not be difficult for those who were interested to guess the hidden truth. After all, not everyone dared to declare the Iron Man identity as fearlessly as Tony Stark. The disclosure of the identity means that the Maximov family can no longer live a normal life, and they must always be prepared to face the revenge of the enemy. Ding ding ding. The phone rang again, and it was still an unknown number. Asshole, aren't you smart? Didn't you wear a mask before? Did you eat your mask? Is this what Natasha taught you? Is this how you work as an agent? A series of questions made Marfa's mouth twitch. It can be heard that this time it was the voice of the Black Studeg. Of course, this didn't sound good, full of blame, but like Sitwell, it also showed some concern for Marfa. Forget it, you, Wanda, and Pietro should all join S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't stay in New York anymore. I'll arrange a new identity for you, and you can come to Washington with the Mrs. Maximoff to settle down. Nick Fury said in a deep voice. Good fellow, are you waiting for me here? Isn't it just to track Wanda and Pietro to join? Wait, the three siblings brought Natalia? What about Django? Marfa wondered in his heart. As if he knew what Marfa was going to say, Nick Fury immediately added a sentence. Mr. Maximoff, District 13 will make other arrangements, you don't have to worry. It's settled. You talk to your family. After that, Nick Fury hung up the phone without waiting for Marfa to reply. Marfa, Cyrillic letter deck, what a joke. I gave you a face, but you forced me to buy it. Although Nick Fury's attitude made Marfa very unhappy, it once again confirmed the seriousness of the matter. Of course, these are all Marfa's thoughts. The real situation is, from the moment Marfa joined S.H.I.E.L.D., both S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra had secretly arranged agents to secretly protect, monitor, every move of the Maximoff family. At the moment Agatha took action, all the networks in Brooklyn were taken over by S.H.I.E.L.D. at the first time, and any electronic signals related to the incident were blocked and deleted at the first time without exception. Just now, when Marfa dealt with Agatha, the people who witnessed the whole process were all invited to the police station by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents one by one. In the name of understanding the course of events, it was actually brainwashing them. As an organization specializing in special situations, similar things have happened before, so S.H.I.E.L.D. is familiar with it. The reason why Nick Fury and Sitwell said this just now is nothing more than to further bring Marfa under their control. Of course, It would be even better if Wanda and Pietro could be absorbed into the organization. Compared with the cunning Nick Fury and Sitwell, Marfa is too green after all. Hey, little brat, you're famous this time. Suddenly the phone rang again, but unlike before, there was no incoming call notification this time, but the phone was directly connected. Looking at the entire MCU world, who else can have such technology and speak in such a proud tone except Tony Stark? Tony, I'm afraid I have to trouble you this time. I don't want my whole family to be controlled by S.H.I.E.L.D. Marfa said gloomily. The phone calls from Sitwell and Nick Fury just now really made Marfa extremely uneasy. Why? Do you have something on them? Oh. Let me think. Are you talking about the exposure of your identity just now? If so, beg me. I will help you solve it as long as you beg me. Tony Stark suddenly had a bad taste and teased Marfa. I beg you. Marfa said without hesitation. If anyone has the strength to fight against S.H.I.E.L.D., it is obvious that Tony Stark is one of them. Ha ha ha. Tony's extremely satisfied laughter came from the other end of the phone. Since meeting Marfa, Tony has never taken advantage of Marfa even a little bit. With his familiarity with the plot and his strange abilities, the verbal confrontation between the two often ended with Tony's failure. Now seeing Marfa begging him, how could Tony not be happy? Alright, this is not like you. Actually, you don't have to worry. S.H.I.E.L.D. has already taken control of the network and has now taken all the witnesses to the nearby police station for tea. You can do whatever you want. It's not as serious as you think. If you are still worried, I can give you the title of Vice President of Stark Industries. Of course, you will not participate in management, have no salary, and no stock dividends, but this should be enough to prevent them from threatening you at will. Huh? Are you that good? If it were someone else, Marfa would still believe it, but Tony was definitely not one of them. As a businessman, Marfa didn't believe that he would do a losing business. Sure enough, Marfa just had a flash of thought, and Tony revealed his true purpose. In return, you have to take me to find the bald woman who just appeared. Chapter 98, Legends of Jianghu. Bald woman? Marfa soon realized that Tony was talking about the supreme sorcerer, Ancient One. He was really bold. If Ancient One knew that Tony called her like this, But what did Tony do with Ancient One? Could it be that he was attracted to her? Want to have sex with her? Thinking of this, Marfa shuddered. The picture was too beautiful to imagine. A week passed quickly. As Tony Stark said, after he announced that Marfa Maximoff would be the vice president of Stark Industries, the whole United States immediately set off an uproar. Who is Marfa Maximoff? For a while, this question became a topic that people talked about after dinner. Originally, Stark Industries was a hot spot that people paid attention to after Tony announced that he would stop producing weapons. If Tony hadn't announced that he was Iron Man, people would still have some expectations for Stark Industries. How could Stark Industries have lasted so long? Now, a person who has never been heard of was appointed as the vice president. This time, Stark Industries' stock fell even more. Shareholders withdrew their capital and cashed out, and stockholders began to frantically sell their stocks. Everyone was quietly waiting to see Tony Stark's joke. But Tony's next magical operation surprised everyone. Under Jarvis's precise budget, Tony seized the opportunity to buy a large number of scattered shares on the market at a low price and took back the shares held by shareholders. Then, Stark Industries Group announced its delisting in a high-profile manner. As a result, Stark Industries suddenly retreated from a listed company with decentralized power and restrained by many parties to a private enterprise controlled by Tony Stark alone. Overnight, Stark Industries' assets shrank by about 80%. Just when everyone thought that Tony Stark was finished, Tony Stark held a press conference again and announced in a high-profile manner that Stark Industries would enter the new energy industry. As the saying goes, a stone stirs up 1,000 waves. With the technical support of the arc energy reactor, Stark Industries' benefits soon began to recover at a visible speed. Although it is still slightly inferior to the past, it is only a matter of time before it surpasses the previous peak. For a time, the name of Marfa Maximoff was blown into a myth in the market, and people attributed the credit for the rise of Stark Industries to Marfa. But there is one thing that puzzles everyone, because no one has ever seen this mysterious vice president. Seeing his name inexplicably on the headlines again, Marfa felt helpless. How did he become a financial legend? Fortunately, under Tony's series of operations, S.H.I.E.L.D. finally gave up the plan to force Maximoff's family to join. With the support of Stark Industries and the secret promotion of Alexander Pierce, the Minister of the Security Council. What can Nick Fury do? In recent days, Black Brazneg has been so worried. His teeth have become much wider due to worry. Coulson, can you tell me whether the salary or welfare of S.H.I.E.L.D. is low? Why is it so difficult for me to recruit a few people? Trident Headquarters, Director's Office. Nick Fury repeatedly flipped through the relevant information of Wanda and Pietro, and asked Phil Coulson beside him. Director, they are still children. It is normal for them to be a little rebellious at this age. After all, he is the honorary principal of Midtown High School. Coulson thought for a moment and replied. Okay, I lose this round. What do you want to talk to me about? Nick Fury threw the information in his hand aside and sat up straight. Director, it's in California. There have been frequent cases of missing homeless people recently. According to the news from Barton, it is likely related to a company called Life Fund. According to reliable intelligence, not long ago, their space exploration spacecraft returned and brought back 3 samples of alien life. The two are likely to be related. Do you think you should send more people to investigate? Coulson reported. Nick Fury frowned. Won't Marfa go to California to participate in Tony Stark's surgery in a few days? The Life Foundation headquarters is also there, so let's give him this task. By the way, let him take Toby with him. This guy is not a pushover. He has been fighting for territory with the Kingpin gang every day recently. This idiot doesn't even think about it. If it weren't for the tacit approval of the US government, could the Kingpin gang develop so openly in the United States? That's all taxes. Nick Fury's words really touched the heart of the mayor of New York City. Whether the Kingpin gang runs bars, KTVs or casinos, all of them pay huge taxes. Otherwise, how could the Kingpin have developed to its current scale in just a few decades? But what about Toby? He took advantage of a good citizen card issued by the president himself and actually started to fight for territory with the Kingpin gang. But Toby's Skynet is still very popular among the people, and with the president's face, the mayor of New York City can't use force against the Sunzi gang. Will the Sunzi gang pay taxes? Obviously not. Even if he paid, how much money could he pay according to Toby's symbolic collection of protection fees? On one side is public opinion, and on the other side is political achievements, which is very uncomfortable. Wanda, do you really want to do this? I think it will be embarrassing. At this time, Marfa was wearing a dress that Wanda specially picked for him, and was shyly walking towards the cinema. Wanda had given Marfa a needle of blood before, and the condition was to obey Wanda unconditionally for 1 day. So there was the current scene. Of course, this is not that Wanda wants to break the moral bottom line and have a sister-brother relationship with Marfa. Instead, she tried every means to create opportunities for her silly brother and Gwen Stacy. To this end, Wanda first made an appointment with Gwen, her good girlfriend, to watch a movie, and then paid for Marfa's outfit out of her own pocket, and ordered him to go to the appointment on her behalf. Alice, for the happiness of her brother's lower body, Wanda, as a sister, can be said to be broken-hearted. What's the matter? You don't keep your word, do you? You've grown wings, haven't you? I'm doing this for your own good. Look at Gwen. She's beautiful, has a good family background, and is a top student. How could she have wronged you? After that, Wanda stuffed Marfa's ID card, a hotel room card, and 2 French restaurant meal coupons into Marfa's hands. Don't go home tonight. I'll lock the door early. If I find you at home tomorrow morning. Humph. Wanda waved her jade hand, and a touch of scarlet appeared in her palm. Since the last attack by Agatha, Wanda has learned from her mistakes and joined the team that practices late at night. Scarlet Witch is gifted, and her starting point is several buildings higher than ordinary wizards like Django or Agatha. The difference between Natalia at the beginning and Wanda now is just systematic learning. Now with the Dark Book, Wanda's progress is rapid. As for how strong she is, Marfa doesn't know. Anyway, she is not easy to mess with. Hey, Wanda, you came so early. Not long after, Gwen also arrived at the entrance of the cinema. Of course, she came in her father's police car. Looking at George Stacy, who looked majestic in the driver's seat, and then looking at the hotel room card Wanda gave her. Marfa couldn't help but swallow deeply. Hi Gwen, it's nice to see you again. I'd like to ask, how old are you? But before Marfa finished speaking, Wanda pinched the soft flesh on Marfa's waist. Listen, is this what a human being says? Asking a girl how old she is right away? Marfa felt so wronged. Isn't it because she was worried that Gwen was underage? Wait, Gwen is Wanda's classmate. How could she be underage? It seems that she should have been scared by the police car. Chapter 99 Agent Venom. The first date with Gwen was not smooth. Although he lived two lives, even if you add them together, Marfa's true consciousness is only in his 20s. It's not that Marfa had no experience in love in his previous life. At least he was quite good at being a spare tire. But who is Gwen? The goddess of the screen. As long as Marfa thought about dating such a goddess, he couldn't calm down. But at least he lived a few years longer than Gwen, and with the experience of two worlds, some interesting topics that Marfa occasionally talked about could often make Gwen laugh. This made the relationship between the two not too awkward. Gwen, After watching the movie and eating a big meal, Marfa's face flushed a little, and for a while he didn't know how to proceed. You can't just ask, do you want to get a room together? Although he has a good impression of Gwen, Marfa is still not open to such things due to the traditional thinking of China in his previous life. And what about Gwen? Under George Stacy's strict family education, she happened to be not a very open girl. Therefore, it was almost impossible to get Gwen to speak first. You just say what you want to say. Wanda is really something. We agreed to watch a movie, eat and go shopping together, but something happened suddenly. I'm sorry to bother you to accompany me for the whole day, Gwen said shyly. This was the first time she had been alone with a boy other than her father. Although it was not as unbearable as Marfa, she was still somewhat uncomfortable. No, nothing. I just wanted to say that the weather is good today, suitable for a walk. In a hotel room not far away. Wanda and Pietro were sweating profusely at this time, and the atmosphere in the room was extremely depressing. At this time, the two were staring at the eavesdropping device in front of them and looking at each other. Is he a pig? Where is the best place to start today? Go directly to the hotel. Wanda clenched her little fist tightly and punched Pietro on the waist. She said angrily. Just yesterday, Wanda, who planned this date, reluctantly took out a part of her own pocket money and bought a lipstick for Stacy. The reason why the two of them could monitor the conversation between Marfa and Gwen in the private room was naturally because Wanda had put a bug in the lipstick. There was no sweet talk as expected, nor was there any humming and awing that made people laugh. During the whole date, apart from academic issues, the one they talked about the most was Wanda. What about not washing hair for a few days? What about fighting for the TV at home? What about which junior students they are paying attention to recently? In short, Wanda's forehead was bulging with veins, and she almost rushed over to hit the two of them with a brick. What the hell? I'm busy, paying for everything out of my own pocket, so that you can blame me together? Wanda, I think we should leave. Hourly rooms are expensive. You should have used up most of your pocket money. Pietro, who was standing by, felt bored after accompanying Wanda for a day, and immediately spoke up. Who said I have to pay for the hourly rent? As a brother, shouldn't you contribute a little to your brother's sexual happiness? Wanda glanced at Pietro unhappily and said. Pietro degree Cyrillic letter degree, fuck, so ruthless. So you've been trying to take my pocket money for so long, what a trick. Wanda and Pietro were so anxious here. On the other side, Marfa was driving Gwen to the curb. He sent her to the police station. Seeing that Marfa was so honest, George liked this interesting boy even more. Until George learned Marfa's name. Good guy, he turned his face faster than turning a page of a book, and almost drove Marfa out of the police station with a weapon, and ordered him not to get close to Gwen in the future. Others may not know, but as the chief of the Queens and North Brooklyn Police Department, how could George Stacy not know? The seemingly harmless young man in front of him was the Shadow who had fought a spider monster and had a battle in Brooklyn a few days ago. George respected his daughter's private life, but it definitely did not include letting her associate with dangerous people like Marfa. P.S. George Stacy's character is based on the Amazing Spider-Man movie. As a policeman, George knew very well that once Gwen and Marfa, who had extraordinary abilities, were together, Gwen would inevitably become a bargaining chip to contain Marfa and bring her endless troubles and dangers. This was something George absolutely did not want to see. What? Why are you so angry? Did I eat your cabbage? Or did I eat your rice? After being driven out by George for no reason, Marfa was full of resentment. Who did she offend? Why did it become like this? Now it's good, I can't go home, and I don't have a girl anymore. The nights in New York are so cold. Or? Go to the hotel alone? Anyway, the room has been booked and the money has been paid. Wouldn't it be a waste if I don't stay? After all, one big bed for each person, isn't it nice? Thinking of this, Marfa suddenly felt a bright light in front of his eyes. Ha ha ha, Wanda, you are wrong after all. I didn't expect that I would stay in a hotel alone. Marfa said proudly in his heart, and immediately ran towards the hotel without stopping. With Marfa's current speed, it would not take long for him to arrive at the hotel. But the moment he pushed open the door, Maximov, you are looking for death. 10 minutes later, Marfa hid alone in the bathroom of the private room, washing his body while casting healing spells on himself. Wanda was too cruel. She actually used the power of chaos to transform into a magic power AK, and output it to herself without regard for her life. If it weren't for Petro's protection, I'm afraid that Wanda would have played with me today. Woman. California, Life Foundation Headquarters. In the biological culture tank, a human embryo is developing rapidly at this time, and growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Flash. Gamora hugged the culture tank and burst into tears. Although as a clone, the flesh in the culture tank at this time will not have any memory of the original body, and even the personality may be completely different. Except for the fact that they look exactly the same, they can almost be said to be two completely different people. But this is his son after all, a son with Gamora's blood. Since the success of the cloned embryo, Gamora has been guarding the culture tank in front of him all the time. It seems that only by looking at it can Gamora's heart calm down a little. Scus, how are the experiments related to the symbiont going? Carlton Drake, CEO of the Life Fund, looked at the already somewhat crazy Gamora, shook his head slightly, and asked a middle-aged woman beside him. The progress is very slow. According to the current experimental results, it is difficult for the symbiont to survive alone in an aerobic environment and must rely on other life. After fusion, the physical fitness of the experimental organism can be greatly improved, but what? Carlton asked. But the organisms that have been fused with symbionts are very aggressive, and due to the mutual exclusion of genes, many experimental subjects will quickly become ill and die in a short period of time. Hearing Doris Scuss's report, Carlton couldn't help but frown. Obviously, he couldn't accept such a result. The reason why Carlton placed his hopes on symbionts was mainly to change the life form of human beings so that humans would have the ability to survive in the universe. In this way, carbon-based biological necessities such as oxygen, water, etc. would no longer be able to limit human beings' exploration of the universe. It can be imagined that as long as the experiment is successful, the number of planets available for human survival will increase greatly. And he, Carlton Drake, will also become the king of the new human beings by virtue of his monopoly on this technology. His name will be engraved on the monument of history and will be admired and worshipped by future generations. Boss. Just when Carlton was indulging in his beautiful fantasy, Dora's hesitant look once again interrupted his why. Can't you say it all at once? Carlton said dissatisfiedly. When we cloned Flash Thompson's genes, we found. Tell me, if you don't want to do it, get out of here. Obviously, Carlton was really angry this time. Dora's intermittent way of speaking really made him uncomfortable. Flash Thompson's genes are very compatible with the symbiote. If there's anyone who can control the symbiote, I think it is him. Hearing this, Carlton's eyes suddenly lit up. The reason why he chose to cooperate with Gamora at first was just because of his capital. After all, the Life Fund has suffered heavy losses in recent years and has tight funds. It is really a bit powerless to study symbiotes. Gamora not only has money, but also has a son who died. It's just cloning a person for him, which is not a difficult task for the Life Fund. But he never expected that there would be such an unexpected gain. For a moment, Carlton's eyes became eager when he looked at the culture tank held by Gamora. Chapter 100 Surgical Meeting. It was a sunny day with a gentle sea breeze. California, 10080 Malibu Street, a large sea view villa. Tony Stark was discussing the operation with Pepper Potts and Stephen Strange. Mr. Stark, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to discourage you, but according to your diagnosis report and chest CT, with my skills, the success rate of successfully and safely removing the shrapnel near your heart is no more than 10%. Stephen analyzed it to Tony truthfully. Even though he is currently the world's top surgeon, It is the heart after all. What's more, the shrapnel near Tony's heart is not just a matter of 1 or 2 pieces. Unless there are more than a dozen Stevens operating at the same time, they will inevitably lose sight of one while focusing on the other. But once the shrapnel flows into the heart, it will be almost destructive to Tony's heart. Then Mr. Strange, what if you don't have to worry about my life? After all, even if the heart stops, it will take 6 minutes to cause death. With your skills, I think if I can remove the shrapnel within 6 minutes, it shouldn't be a big problem. Tony asked hurriedly. You know, this matter concerns his life, and Tony has made sufficient preparations. This is impossible. Have you ever considered that while I am removing the shrapnel, other shrapnel will follow the pulse of your heart and move towards your heart? This process is a fatal blow to your heart. And if I don't care and remove the shrapnel one by one, by the time my operation is successful, you will have already died. Strange pointed at Tony's CT film very professionally and analyzed it to Tony. Mr. Strange, I wonder what you think of magic. Tony raised the corner of his mouth and asked confidently. Magic? Oh my God. Mr. Stark, are you kidding? Why don't you just ask God to come and perform the surgery for you? What do you think? Stephen Strange, like Tony Stark before him, is a staunch materialist. In other words, almost all people who have achieved certain success in medicine or other scientific research are like this. Therefore, when Tony started talking about magic, Stephen wanted to leave immediately. This was not only an insult to him personally, but also an insult to his beliefs. If it weren't for Tony Stark's identity, Stephen would definitely turn around and leave without saying a word. Jarvis. Okay, sir. As Jarvis' voice fell, the scene of Marfa and Agatha fighting was immediately displayed in front of Stephen Strange in a 3-dimensional projection. This. Mr. Stark, you must be kidding me. Is Stark Industries planning to enter the film industry? Speaking of which, this male lead does look good, but the villain is a little bit worse, not fierce enough. Stephen said, and he made a very humorous gesture. This scene can be said to have directly amused Pepper on the side. Stephen was invited by Pepper, and the two naturally talked a lot on the plane. But Stephen had never shown such a lovely side before. Sir, Mr. Maximoff and Mr. Tobey Maguire are here. Jarvis' voice sounded again. Oh? Really? That's perfect, let our Mr. Strange meet the annoying male lead. Okay sir, I'll let Mr. Marfa come over. I'll arrange for Mr. Maguire to wait in the living room. A moment later, Marfa came to the rooftop of the Seaview Villa under the guidance of Jarvis. It's more like a rooftop garden than a rooftop. Grass, flowers, shrubs, small trees, large trees, row upon row, high and low, and even artificial water systems meandering among them. As soon as he entered the garden, a strong aroma of coffee came to his face and penetrated Marfa's nose. Well, Tony, I didn't expect that there was such a good place hidden in your villa. I stayed here for 2 days and didn't even know it. Marfa sat on the guest seat in the garden pavilion very familiarly, picked up the coffee pot on the table and poured himself a cup. Hey, kid, don't be so rude, okay? Come on, show me a magic trick. Oh, no, show me a magic trick. Don't worry, I will give you an appearance fee. Tony rummaged through Pepper's bag, found a $10 bill, and put it on the table. $10? Haha, Marfa Maximoff, am a multimillionaire, okay? Don't I want to save face? Of course, this is just a thought in his mind. After all, Tony had helped him before, so he had to repay the favor. Let's just consider it as repaying the favor. With pleasure, Mr. Stark. Marfa imitated the gentleman in the black and white drama, put one hand on his chest and bowed slightly. Then he put the $10 into his pocket very unceremoniously. Immediately, Tony was lifted up by a lavender telekinetic tentacle. Then, shaking left, swinging right, 360 degrees flip, stretching legs, arching waist. Do you think Tony is coquettish? Enough. Enough, Marfa, I was wrong. I was wrong, hurry. Put me down. Tony was not wearing a battle armor at this time, and there was no internal gravity system to help him adjust his body. After the set, his face immediately turned red and he felt dizzy. The most important thing is that the posture of Tony pushing the cart just now was really, and Pepper and Stephen were still watching. For a moment, Tony wanted to kill Marfa. And what about Stephen? At this moment, he was indeed so shocked that his jaw almost dropped to the ground. You know, he was talking to Tony before, and Steven could see clearly whether there was anything on the rooftop of the building. But now, Tony was actually doing gymnastics in the air under the control of Marfa. This absolutely overturned Steven's cognition for nearly 30 years. Mr. Stark, do you think this performance is enough for $10? If not, I can also give you a set of pole dancing. Marfa is not Pepper, and she doesn't spoil Tony. Okay, since you treat me as a juggler, I will perform for you for the sake of the previous favor. But I can't let me perform alone, right? As the saying goes, if I don't go to hell, who will? Since I want to see magic, of course it will be more convincing if I experience it firsthand. I fell to the ground again. Jarvis, prepare Mark III for me immediately. I must teach Marfa, the bastard, a lesson today. Tony got up from the ground and shouted to Jarvis without caring about Steven. Sir, while you are wearing the mark III, Mr. Maximov should be able to let you dance a waltz or the dance of the four little swans. Are you sure you want to practice with him now? What is killing someone and what is selling out for a fame? Jarvis has obviously learned the essence. Look at what you said, I was just thinking. Did I improve the mark III again recently? I want Marfa to give me some advice and suggestions. Tony immediately backed off. Okay, Mr. Stark, I think I have some faith in what you just said, I mean boo. Obviously, after seeing Marfa's ability with his own eyes, Steven's faith has been shaken, but perhaps it is the last insistence. Steven still refuses to say the word magic. Hearing Steven talking about business again, Tony immediately returned to his seat and put on that serious face. According to Marfa. Oh, I forgot to introduce. Marfa Maximov, he is a magician. Tony added. No, Mr. Stark, I must correct you. I am a Taoist priest, and I just used Taoist magic. Although it does look like magic, in your words, it is just a different energy source, a different mechanical driving principle, but the final effect is similar. Marfa added quickly. Okay, whatever you say is what it is, so can you shut up now? Maybe you would rather drink some coffee or eat some cake or something. Tony obviously didn't like Marfa's sudden interruption. But he immediately thought of pole dancing, and didn't continue to delve into it. Marfa has a kind of magic that can quickly heal injuries. I haven't analyzed a specific principle yet, but one thing is certain. This can definitely maintain my divine signs during your surgery. Tony said affirmatively. Oh, no. Mr. Stark, I admit that Mr. Maximoff is a magical man, but you can't joke with your own life. I don't want to see the news that I killed you due to a surgical error appear in the New York Times. Stephen Strange said quickly. Stephen, I can call you that. Actually, I have done a live experiment with Marfa not long ago. Of course, I used a monkey. In fact, I am more confident than you. If I really die, you can send Marfa to prison with my legal team. Because this bastard must have dozed off. Tony said with a smile, as if it was not him who was going to the operating table this time. What about the hole in your chest? Where can I find such a big piece of skin and flesh to sew it up for you, and make sure you won't have an immune rejection reaction? Stephen asked a very professional question. How about pork? I think the thing is quite suitable for Tony, and it will definitely not cause an immune rejection reaction. Marfa replied. Tony. I really want to sew this kid's mouth shut. If it weren't for the fact that he had to rely on Marfa to add blood for him later, Tony would definitely not mind spending an extra $100 million to let Steven tie a bow on Marfa's tongue. It doesn't matter. I have contacted the Life Fund and asked them to help me clone a piece of flesh and skin tissue according to the wound on my chest. It will probably be delivered tomorrow. Life Fund, Marfa was very keen to catch this keyword. He didn't forget that he came to California this time with a mission from S.H.I.E.L.D. He didn't expect to be able to contact the Life Fund so soon. Good guy. Tony is indeed the most qualified tool man in the world. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.